Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the reunion of Final Fantasy VII Remake podcast. I am your host, Kai, and joining me again today is my co-host, Vyzz. How are you doing, Vyzz?
I'm pretty good today, thank you. And for a change, no headaches. Not even yesterday, not the day before. I'm pretty good this week. Thanks. How about you?
Yay! You're hydrated.
Yes, I am. I drank my tea and I have my bottle of water right beside me.
Nice. I'm doing good. I've just been really diving into some Elden Ring. Finally, I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima, and I just love both of those games. They're so incredible, and I kind of was playing Elden Ring for a bit, and I stopped because it was so difficult, which is what happened to me when I played Bloodborne. I kind of just like stopped, reflected, and then came back to it, which after I was actually really happy that I did go back to it because it ended up being like one of my favorite games on PS4. So something similar to that happened with Elden Ring. So finally I'm kind of getting into it and I've leveled up a lot and I'm just starting to really dive into it and I really love it so far. Have you tried it yet?
Not yet. It's not quite my type of game. I only played a little bit of Bloodborne until the second boss, Father Gascoigne, and lost a couple of times, and then something else came up, and then I didn't get back to it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm a completionist, so I really dedicate my time, my effort into one single game, and most games I play are like 50, 60, whatever hours long. See Trails of Cold Steel, Trails in the Sky series, and Final Fantasy and everything. So it takes quite a while to play through, and I would have a gigantic backlog if I tried to play every game I'm interested in. So I have to cut my losses and prioritize, unfortunately.
Yeah, I totally hear you there. Same thing with me. It's just an issue of time to sink into all of these amazing games like Horizon Zero Dawn, Forbidden West. I haven't even gotten that game yet.
Same.
Because I just don't have time, you know? And now it's like, oh my gosh, I'm diving into Elden Ring. It's going to take so long.
Oh yeah.
But I'm just going to do it. I really am loving it. So, and going from that to Ghost of Tsushima as well, like that game is a totally different experience, which is really good. But then sometimes I'll get tired of playing that and I'm like, I'll go play some Elden Ring. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Ghost of Tsushima is also on my list, but doesn't have such a high priority, so I don't know when I'm gonna play this. But after Trails in the Sky second chapter, Horizon Forbidden West certainly will be on the table.
Yeah, you'll get to it.
Yes, eventually.
All right, guys. So the best way to support us here is to like, sub, and share the podcast. If you haven't already done so, go to our YouTube channel and you can subscribe to us. We do post our episodes to our YouTube channel. And also we are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, so for the news section for today's episode, we'll actually be talking about the recent state of play. And that happened, I think it was on March the 9th. And then we'll also be talking about that whole Chocobo GP Fiasco, because as we know, Square Enix, there's a lot of fiascos that happen there. Yeah. Let's just say that they are not shy to fiascos. And we'll also be talking about The First Soldier, which is now in season 2. Our main discussion topic for this episode is actually about transfer of progression for part 2 of the remake and the subsequent parts, depending on obviously how many parts we'll actually end up getting. More specifically, we'll dive into how can this be done? Integration into the story, how and what should transfer, if anything, and what other possibilities there are other than a full transfer, or maybe no transfer at all. So really excited to actually dive into this topic with you today, Vyzz, because I think that we kind of mentioned it on a previous episode, but we haven't really taken time to really dive into this discussion topic and kind of, give our opinions and our thoughts about, what that could look like. So really excited.
Yeah, same. I'm also really excited about it. I started scripting a video. I think I even finished the video script, but then State of Play happened when the first advertisement campaign started for Remake again in 2019. And I just had to drop it and go make a trailer analysis. and it just sat there on my hard drive, and I thought, well, if I'm not being able to get my crap together and release this separately on my channel, then I thought, well, why not talk about it here?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being so generous, for
No
allowing us
worries.
to talk about this. All right, guys. So moving on here, we're talking about the news. So Sony State of Play. All right, so it was focused on Japanese publishers. So people got really excited thinking that we were going to get some Final Fantasy 16 news. And nope, we did not get any Final Fantasy 16 news. I was there full clown makeup on, just like everybody else. But I wasn't surprised that we didn't get anything.
Yeah, same.
But I was hoping there was like a glimmer of hope. But then, we've talked about this before on previous episodes, what we think the timeline for release of Final Fantasy 16 is. And for them to give us information at this state of play just didn't really make sense with what we've been saying, which is probably early summer release. And then we're going to hear about it a little bit before that, which is what they've said. Basically, they're not going to show it until it's ready and close to be released.
Exactly.
So, and also, I think that Yoshi P had said something about we'll see it in the spring or something like that. And then people were thinking, in Japan, spring starts a little earlier than, I guess, in North America. So they're like, oh, it's March 9th. March is spring. Well, technically, it's still actually winter until March 20th here anyway in North America. But I think that kind of gave people some false hope maybe that we were going to see this or get some news finally, but we didn't get anything, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm personally not so sad about it because I still have other things to do than going through a trailer or a teaser or information or anything like that. So I'm glad that they hopefully are going to release or show something by the end of the spring, like, I don't know, late May or something. I could live with that.
Well, I checked the dates for spring, and the last day of spring, I think, is June 21st. So June is still considered spring. Here, anyway, in North America, I think, but I don't know what it's like in Japan, so I don't know.
It's similar latitude, I think, so it should be similar, but it depends, I guess. Don't know from the top of my head.
Well, you know what? I was okay with it. I think it was a long shot that we got anything Final Fantasy 16 related news, especially part 2. Like, there's no way that we were going to get any information.
No way.
But when I saw Japanese publishers, I was like, okay, well, definitely Square Enix is going to be showing something. And I was kind of, hoping for 16, but here we are. So what we did get was we got a few revealed trailers for a few new IPs that Square's been working on. We did get another trailer for Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin and a new gameplay demo, which we will be talking about a little bit later in the episode. We did get an update, I think an updated trailer of Forspoken. I think that it does look better. And obviously, it was recently announced that the game's been delayed, I think, by 6 months.
September or October 10th or something? Don't quite remember, but it was October, pretty sure.
Well, I thought that it looked a lot better than the last time that they showed it to us, but I can tell that it would still benefit from being delayed a little bit longer, in my opinion. But I am excited for this game. I think that it has the opportunity to be a really great game. I just like the style. I like the characters so far that they've showed us. I think that I guess you would call it like action or battle system, whatever, it looks really cool. I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, battle system for sure. This is something that really interests me and intrigues me. Stories, character, not quite warmed up yet, but the world and the mystery, the lore, and battles and exploration, that's something I'm interested in. But I need to see more. But when it's close to release, I'm maybe going back to the trailers, maybe read or watch some preview or review or something just to get the feel of it and then decide.
I do like the banter so far between the characters, and I think that the voice actor for the main character has done a good job so far from what we've seen with the trailers. So that kind of intrigues me and excites me a little bit. I don't know the background of the story and I don't know anything really about the characters, but what they've shown us so far, I do like the way that they communicate together. And it's kind of like it's not taking itself too seriously, which I really like.
Oh
I
yeah.
like that having a break from if it's kind of like this dire story and it's dark and whatever. I like to have that broken up where it's like, okay, it's not taking itself too seriously. I do like that. So
Yeah, it kind of feels like that it's it errs a little bit on the comical side a little bit.
mhm.
Like yes, we know it's a bit funky, but we lean into it. I really hope this is the case because if it's involuntarily funny, then I don't see much
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, much success in the story department. But I do agree that the interaction between the main character and her arm bracelet
Yeah, it's like
ghost
a robot or
spirit.
something, isn't
I
it?
don't know what it is, but yeah, this one is really intriguing. It
Mhm.
kind of has a little bit of Wetly vibes from Portal 2, just not as
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah.
Also, like a little bit sarcastic and stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, definitely.
All right, and moving on here, Square Enix showed a trailer of Valkyrie Elysium, which is a sequel actually in the Valkyrie series to Valkyrie Profile. And I think that this looks really good, in my opinion. I'm really digging the combat, the style of the game, the art style. I think out of everything that they've shown, I think this is the most excited I am for out of everything that Square showed. I haven't played Valkyrie Profile before, so this is kind of a new glimpse of this franchise, I guess, or this series for me. So I don't really have any, expectations or preconceived notions like kind of going into it, which might help. You know what I mean? Because it seems like it's a little divided because people that have played Valkyrie Profile that I've seen online have been kind of saying that this doesn't look good and they're being kind of negative towards it. So
Oh.
I'm interested to see how it's going to turn out, but I think that it looks great and I'm interested. So,
Yeah, same actually. But I did play the first and the second one, but not finished either of those, unfortunately.
mm,
But I think I've gone in pretty far. Um, but it's for the first two games. I haven't really watched the trailer again or analyzed it, so
hmm
I don't quite know if it plays the same as the first two or if it's a little bit more action oriented. It looks from my memory, it looks a little bit more action oriented, which I don't mind.
yeah.
But in general, it's I'd say it's a very unconventional game, especially the
Mm.
first Valkyrie profile and Valkyrie profile 2 Silmarillion, I don't remember. Something with S. The first the remastered version of the first one is called Lenneth, which is the name of the Valkyrie. And I think in the second one it's also the name of the Valkyrie.
hmm
But it usually it's you're on a 2D plane. Gameplay wise, it's rendered 3D. The second one, the first one is sprite based. But it's kind of like a platformer of sorts.
Oh, okay.
But then when you touch an enemy, you go into a separate battle
Mm.
arena like any other
Okay.
JRPG. And then you have on your controller, the face buttons are mapped to each of your Einherjar. Those are the fallen fighters or knights from
Okay.
battles which the Valkyrie brought back to Valhalla to use for other battles, or I think for preparation for the apocalypse. And you can use or choose 4 of your Einherjar to battle, and then you just tell like the first one to attack with circle and the second one to attack with
Mm.
X, something like that. It's very interesting. It's very unconventional indeed, but it has been a while, so I'm pretty bad at explaining it because I think it really has been 4, 5, 6 years or even more.
Hmm.
No, it has to be more because Valkyrie Profile 2 came out on the PS2, if I'm
Oh.
remember correctly, or was it on the PS3? No, I think 2. My memory is a little bit fuzzy on that, but you guys can correct us on comments or wherever you want to, or on that Discord server. But it looks pretty good. Looks good. I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm curious because I think what they showed us was probably the battles after you like touch an enemy and then you go into a battle arena, because it looked empty. So it looked like you were battling an enemy, but I couldn't see any NPCs in the area. Like, do you know what I mean? So it doesn't really look like, so it could be that that's what they showed us. They didn't show us like, the normal environments where if you're walking and it's like a top down, is it like a top down isometric kind of sprite? You know what I'm saying? Is it kind of like Octopath Traveler when you're like looking down and then the characters are like sprite like, or are they 3D?
Well, the old ones, the first one, yes, but not top down. It's really a side scroller, basically. When you're in a dungeon, and I think you can fly around on the world map, which is basically a Final Fantasy like overworld, and you're flying around and go to places.
Okay.
The dungeons are side scroller platformer, and yeah, when you touch an enemy, it transfers you into the battle arena, and that's it. Could be that they're still keeping this formula. I hope so, because I think it's really unique and should continue, because otherwise this formula will probably be lost to time. I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm excited to see where this goes. I think that it looks great, so we'll see. All right, and the next game that they did show is the Diofield Chronicle, which looks like a Final Fantasy Tactics game. And I think that they showed the title of the game at the end, so people were a little confused and got excited thinking it was Final Fantasy Tactics. But I am really interested in this game as well. For me, I'm not really good at those types of games. I played Final Fantasy Tactics. Wasn't the greatest at it, but I did enjoy what I played. But I'm not one of those people who, like, that's their thing. You know what I mean? A lot of people, like, that's their genre of game and they live for those type of games. Same thing with Fire Emblem. So it's like those type of games. Like, honestly, I played Fire Emblem. It wasn't for me. I didn't really like it. But this looks really cool. I think it's a combination of, it looks turn-based, but then it also kind of looks 3D, but not like 2D sprites like Octopath Traveler or
Triangle Strategy.
Yeah. So it's actually like the world is 3D, but it's top-down isometric, kind of in the style of the Octopath Traveler and Final Fantasy Tactics. So I'm interested. I'll try anything. You know what I mean? I might not be really good at it, but we'll see. We'll see. My problem is finding time to play all of these games, right? So I would be willing to try it. I just don't know if I have the time to get into it. So we'll see. But I'm excited.
Exactly the same for me. I once played Final Fantasy Tactics, the Game Boy Advanced version, which is a little bit different, I think, from the PlayStation version. And I think I finished it. I remember battling final boss material, but it's been a while, so I don't quite remember. I think I did. And it was interesting, for sure. Its tactics approach is very intriguing, because there are so many options. You really have to think strategically. Does the game tactics? You have to have your tactics aligned and think strategically in each turn. And if you attack from behind, it does more damage than from the front, but you also need to look out that you don't expose your back to the others, and the height is also important. Like if you're on a higher platform than the others, or on a higher tile, then you'd also deal more damage and stuff, especially with archers. And there are so many things to look out for, and it's very, very cool gameplay design, basically, if you do it right. And Tactics did it, but problem is time and priorities, and maybe I will go look into it at some point. But I personally prefer normal JRPGs, whether they are ATB based or real turn-based games like the Trails games or all the Final Fantasies, or even action like Remake or Final Fantasy 15. I don't really mind that much which one, as long as the battle feels good. That's why I really, really love Remake, and not so much the battle system of 15, but 15 shine in other ways. In the end, it's about the journey. And if a game is so much gameplay focused, I need to be in the headspace of wanting to play this this battle system or this type of gameplay. And with tactics, I really need to get into it. So this means I need to have space in my time, in my head, in my motivation to play games, to say, okay, now I'm switching to tactics game, and then really dig into it. Otherwise, it will be probably a bit difficult. And I don't want to switch between different games. I don't do that anymore.
I'm so bad with that already with the current games that we have, where I will play a game for a little bit and I won't finish it because then I'll get distracted and I'll start playing something else because this new game came out or something like that. And then I never go back and finish it. Like, I already have that problem, and it seems like it's just going to get worse. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. But I think that it looks really cool. And I think it's going to satisfy that, group of people who really enjoy these tactic-like games. I'm hoping. We'll see, but it looks super interesting, and I think that people are really going to enjoy it. So we'll see.
We'll see, definitely, yeah. One thing to add probably is that those kind of games, I also remember Disgaea being one of those offenders, that it just takes so much time to play through, because each battle is not just you go in, press a few times, attack, and then you're done when you're grinding and you're a bit stronger than the enemy. Here, you have to think every single time, unless they implement some sort of auto battle, which kind of defeats the purpose, but sometimes is necessary because you'll just go crazy. And this Gaia is so heavy on that. You have like 9,999 levels and like 1 billion HP if you're leveled up so much, and you can level up each and every item and piece of equipment by going into it and playing through levels which are tactics-based battle systems. It's just crazy, and you need to know what you're doing, otherwise you'll be sitting there for hundreds of hours, which you'll probably do anyway. So I don't think FF Tactics was as egregious. I could play through it like in maybe 50, 60 hours or something, and I hope Diofield or Diofield Chronicle and Triangle Strategy are similar, that they don't make you play for 100, 200 hours, for completionists anyway. So yeah, we'll see. Oh, I just remembered also, doesn't Final Fantasy Tactics have like dialogue and story progression or story points within battles themselves? I think I remember something like that, especially in the PlayStation version. That you're not just within cutscenes and they talk to each other, but also in battle a little bit. Which makes sense, because battles are so grand and huge, and yeah.
When I played Fire Emblem, I enjoyed what I did play, but I didn't like that if my character died because I made a mistake, then my character is permanently dead.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which you can turn off, but then it's kind of like, I don't know, isn't that the whole thing? Like, shouldn't you just not do that? Because then you're just making it so much easier, where you don't have to worry about like your choices as much, like your decision making or your strategy. So then I was like, I don't really want to play this and have to turn that off. So then I was disappointed, and I was just like, there's so many other games to play, and I was like, I'm not playing this game. It's just not for me.
Yeah. No, permadeath, I'm not a fan of permadeath, unless it's really intrinsic to the gameplay. To the gameplay, how it's built. Like, was it like Rogue something? Rogue. It's a side scroll platformer. Like I think it's almost infinite. Rogue Legacy it is, right? Rogue Legacy. It's a pixel based or a vector based graphic style. I think it's pixel. Then you play as just some knight or some whatever. I think it's even random generated what their strengths and weaknesses are. Then you play through. If you die, they die permanently, but you retain, I think, certain points or certain items. So you retain something, and then you play as their descendant, like son or daughter or whatever. And each time you start a little bit stronger.
Oh, I see.
So the permadeath is not like you lose something, It's just like
Yeah.
you died and then you try again, but then you have a stronger attack but weaker defense, or the other way around. But in the end, you're always a little bit better each time.
Yeah.
It's also a pretty cool concept. But if you just can recruit anybody, and then you like a certain character, and then they die in battle and are permanently dead, then it's that. I don't like that either.
Yeah, and then you're not getting the story of those characters. They're just gone forever.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like I wouldn't have time to replay it just to make sure that character lives, so I would get that.
It makes sense. It is real and raw and rough. It's like war, and if people die, they die. It makes sense, and I understand that maybe the story also incorporates that, but from a gameplay perspective, from a gamer, if you're not this invested in it, then it's probably just annoying.
Yeah. All right, so really quickly here, we did get the reveal for some other games. So there's a game called Exoprimal, which has dinosaurs and robots, right? Which looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it's heavily inspired by Dino Crisis, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, people thought it was Dino Crisis, but it's a different game. But it looks cool. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to love that game.
Let's hope so.
I don't think I'm going to play it because it's just not for me.
Same.
Ghostwire Tokyo looks really cool. They also showed Gundam Evolution, which is, for me, Overwatch with robots. And I really like Overwatch, so this could be something that I might be interested in trying. And then we also got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection, which I'm really stoked about.
Oh, same here. I love that.
Played those games growing up, so just having them, accessible again and available for you to play now, like we've been talking about, I think we mentioned this on previous episode as well, where we're seeing this kind of preservation happening where we're getting re-releases of older games, which is great because it's just keeping them preserved. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
where
exactly.
We can still access them now so they don't just die into obscurity and we never get to play them ever again. And we can't find those consoles that the games were originally released on. We'd never be able to experience them again. So I'm liking this, and I'm really excited to play this.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm going to be reminded that it's probably the controls are probably really bad.
Probably, yeah.
But it's going to be so good because it's just I'm going to get that nostalgia hit. Yeah.
I do remember that there was a new age version of one of the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. I don't remember how it's called. Something with time. I don't quite remember.
Oh,
but for the PS3, I think. Or something? Yeah, I think so. It could be. It was, I think, still 2D, and I don't think it was 3D rendered. It was sprite based with high resolution, like HD. I played it with my roommate. It's really, really good. It was fun to play. Like back then, but with not the 230 by 320 by 240 pixels, but actually HD, full HD. It was good. But still, it was the same feeling as back then, to just sit on the couch and mow through all the enemy lines. And get your ass handed to you by Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah. It's like DuckTales as well. They did
yes, exactly,
remaster of DuckTales, and it was really good. But it also reminded me how frustrating games were back then. Because it really is difficult and tests your patience. And they did improve the controls, but a lot of those games are really hard to control, especially those platformers on the original NES and Super Nintendo and stuff. And going back and playing those Mario games now just seem impossible to me. I don't know about anybody else, but anyway.
I think Mario games are still pretty good. They do hold up. And also Mega Man games, I still love to play them, right? Like really the original ones for the Game Boy and Nintendo and Super Nintendo are still fun to play through and really tight controls. But it doesn't quite feel as new. But it's still, I think those still hold up because that's why they were so great back then. They already played well.
I don't know, dude, but I played them on I played them like, I don't know, in the last 5 years.
Okay.
And I was really bad at them. And I felt like the controls were not tight. I just felt like there was like latency between the controller and the console, and
interesting.
I was jumping at the wrong time, and like it was bad, dude. I was like, how did I ever beat this as a child? Because I remember actually beating it.
I don't remember any latency.
Like the original Mario.
Yeah.
Or Mario, whatever you want.
Mario, potato.
Mario.
Titus.
But yeah. All right, so the next game we got was Giga Bash. And then we also got JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R. I think it's a remaster or a remake of All-Star Battle, which is JoJo's fighting game, which people were really excited about.
Oh, yeah.
And then we also got Trek to Yomi, which looks really cool.
Art style is phenomenal in that game, I feel. Really good.
And then Returnal Ascension, which is basically, I think it's a free DLC for Returnal that allows co-op.
Yes, co-op, and I think a new biome.
Yeah, a new area.
Or new area, yeah.
Yeah, people are really excited about that.
Yes.
I did not play Returnal yet because there's so many other games to play, and I got my PlayStation 5 late. So it's one of those games that's like, you know what I mean? Like in my back catalog of games that I will play eventually.
Pile of shame.
Yeah, but that came out early to the release of the console. So when I first bought it, I was like, am I going to get Returnal, or am I going to get Demon Souls, or am I going to get Ratchet and Clank or something like that? I don't remember, but I did get Demon Souls, which I only got so far, and then I was playing other games. So like Intergrade came out, so I'm like, I'm getting that. So then I dove into that, and then I just, and also Returnal is kind of like Hades, right? Where you die, and then you get more and you level up more as you go. And that I do like that to a certain extent, but then it just gets overwhelming, and I'm like, okay, I'm tired of this. I have to take a break and go play something else. So that, as well as all the good other games that are amazing that have come out for PS5, I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to get Returnal. Maybe when it's like really cheap on sale, I'll just pick it up and play it eventually when there's nothing to play on PS5.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shame, but it's kind of the same here. Also, the game is not something I really, really want to play, but I would be interested if I had some spare time, just look into it and see if I feel it, if I want to keep playing, because I hear it's kind of a little bit of a bullet hellish, which I technically like, because I loved those parts in Nier Automata. Some hated them. I loved those parts. And also there, maybe you know them. There's I think a single guy developer who created numerous bullet hell games, like those top-down from below to above shooters. Yeah, which is basically only boss battles, like so anime girl boss battle stuff, and it's so crazy, but it's really fun to play. I played, I think, 1 or 2 of them on a PC. And it's really good music as well. Music is phenomenal in those games. So bullet hell is not the issue, but maybe I will get frustrated because sometimes I just want to relax and play a little, and then I don't have the capacity or the energy to play such an intense game and then die over and over again. So that's probably why I won't pick it up. But it's still of interest. Especially I heard that the story is pretty good. Even if there's not like a huge story, but the story parts in between levels and where it leads to is very interesting.
It's like Elden Ring, right? It's punishing those Souls-like games, but it's a different style, and I prefer those because I am learning from dying, and then I come back to it. But I can, especially Elden Ring, like I can explore a new area. I don't have to fight that specific boss. I can leave and fall down a hole and be, in some cave, and then explore there and come back to that other area and try it again after I've leveled up. Like that is more for me, I feel.
That's fair,
Yeah. I'll definitely pick it up eventually.
I don't know if I have mentioned this on this podcast already, but I really, really loved Celeste. This is also a punishingly hard game in some levels, especially if you don't know how to progress. But if you die, like not even a second later, you can try again. It's like screen based. You go into a screen and then you have to find out how to get through there or how to avoid the enemy and stuff. So it's checkpoints are really well placed and fair. Usually there are some areas, some boss battles that are longer, so then when you die you have to start from the beginning. But other than that, it's just die, try again, die, try again, die, try again. Just push through, and it really works so well. And the gameplay is tight and looks gorgeous, really great pixel art, and the protagonist is endearing. And even in game, it's climbing a mountain, and this is exactly how the gameplay feels like. You just try to get up, slide down again, try to get up, and that's what I really liked. And I think this is what turned me off with Bloodborne, because when I die against a boss, then it gets set back to the previous checkpoint or save point. Yeah. And since I don't retain what I lost or get back what I lost, I lose everything. So if I have not enough healing potions or Molotov cocktails or whatever, then I need to farm a little bit again. If I have enough, I need to run up to the boss again, and this is just not fun, because I can't just try again and get into the flow of things. I just get thrown out of the gaming flow each time, and when I reach the boss again, I might have a bad start, and then I just die prematurely, and then I have to run up to the boss for 5 minutes again. It's just not fun for me, this type of gameplay.
Yeah, the worst part is because you lose your runes or your souls or whatever you use to level up your character, or you need those as well. It's like in-game currency as well, because you need to use it to upgrade your weapons. Yeah. You don't lose your weapons or your equipment or anything, which is nice, but if you don't pick them back up and you die on your way to the boss battle, let's say you drop them there, then you don't get anything back, which is
that's true. That's
really
true.
Unfortunate. Yeah. But what I've been trying to do is like I use them all up before I go into a boss fight. Oh yeah. That if I know,
that's what I did as well. Yeah.
Like I use it, and then also you can run past usually all of the if there's enemies like on your way to the boss fight. I usually just dodge and run really fast past it, because I'm like, I'm not gonna try to fight you again, you know. But I understand what you're saying. It would be nice to have an option actually where you could just be like retry the battle, like from this battle or something like that, where you don't have to go back to the checkpoint or whatever. But Elden Ring does have two things now. It has like a Stake of Marika, or you can respawn back to the Grace, which is essentially like the checkpoint. So it's like there's a little statue like closer to the boss that you can respawn to instead. But yeah, I hear you. Then I'm just like, I'm done. I just like take a break. I'm like, I'm done now. So then I just turn it off.
Exactly. And then something else came up, and then
yeah. All right, so moving on here quickly, we're going to talk about Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin. It's out. So thoughts. So I'm going to give you my thoughts, because I played the new demo on PS5 again, and I thought that it looked terrible, which was very distracting. And then I uninstalled it immediately because I played the other two demos, which I did enjoy, the gameplay, which I talked about on previous episodes, and the job system, the loot system, I really enjoyed, because you can just grind loot, right? Which I really like that aspect, which is great. But funny story, I did actually pick it up for PC because I got a Epic Game Store gift card for my birthday, which was a few weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
I'm not going to talk about it because a bunch of stuff happened, and we already talked about it previously before we started recording. It was a whole thing. Anyway, so I'm like, I'm just going to get it, whatever. So I modified my system settings, my graphic settings. So it actually runs okay for my computer, and it's like a 9-year-old computer. So yeah, I turned off like dynamic resolution, which essentially just changes the resolution instead of like on the fly, right? If you're going to have slowdown or there's FPS issues, it's going to change the resolution, so there's no slowdown there, there's no frames lost. I actually turned that off because if you leave it on, it just makes the whole thing look blurry. Yeah. It's like it's bugged or something. Like it's always, when you turn it on, it's like always running at a very low resolution. It's not actually being dynamic.
Like
It's
watching
really
YouTube
bizarre.
videos or Netflix shows with a
Yeah.
bad internet connection.
Yeah. But it's really smooth. But then the cutscenes look like trash. I mean, they should have spent more time on this, honestly, but I think I get what they were going for, you know what I mean? Which was this kind of like meme game, trashy. They didn't really care as much about what it looked like. Also, it's not developed by Square Enix, right?
Right, yeah.
So the Neo games were developed by Team Ninja, which also kind of have this similar style. Like they don't look as bad as this though, because I have played those, the Neo games. But yeah, anyway, I got it looking pretty good. I actually turned HDR off because it was like broken as well. Like it just made everything look super saturated, and like I turned that off and it actually looks pretty good. So it's been running fine. I've only had a few times where it slowed down a little bit. So, but I'm really into Elden Ring right now, so I'm not going to be playing this game for a while, but I'll just drop in and out and, play it kind of just for fun and see how ridiculous it is. So far, it's pretty ridiculous, but it's just, the combat's good, the job system's good. It's just really grindy, and I like those games where you have to grind for your loot. It's more loot based, like Diablo or something like that. Like I love those games, right? Like that's for me, and I do really like how they incorporated the job system. I think that it's really split right now. There's a lot of people that hate it and a lot of people that like it, and people that can get past the visual issues with it, and then people that are like, they literally just were like, I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
Which was my friend, because I showed my friend. He's like, I just don't understand it. Like, why would I play this when I can play so many other games that just are better? Even, yes, the gameplay's good, but
if you're a visual person, then it's probably not for you, I guess.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see. I picked it up, so.
Yeah, we'll see. I personally I'm not too worried about something that doesn't look as good, as long as the visual style is passable and it doesn't like have frame stutters all over the place or other graphical errors and pop-ins and weird texture glitches. If it's just not as pretty or not as sharp, then I don't quite mind, because if the gameplay is phenomenal or just way above average, then I think, well, then the game is fine. It plays well, it's smooth, it's fun. Then I don't really care. But when it doesn't look as good and the gameplay is also questionable or not that fun to play, then it's the no-go, of course. But I heard good things about the gameplay.
Yeah, the story is kind of, I don't know yet, because I'm still very early in the game.
Right, yeah.
So for me, it's more the story and the gameplay than the graphics, I guess, is the most important thing.
Yeah.
But after having played Intergrade on PS5 and then playing that demo, like I was like,
Fair.
I'm like, how can I go from playing Intergrade, which looks so good, right, and then go and play this game? Like I just was finding it really difficult, but I grabbed it for PC and it already looks a lot better on my PC, so I'm gonna stick with it.
Yeah. Do you know by chance which engine they use, Team Ninja?
I don't know.
Like an internal engine or Unity or something? Because that would be also interesting.
Sure.
I didn't look it up before, unfortunately.
I think that they're going to continuously patch this game, so those issues will hopefully be fixed. But I just wrote here on the notes that I hate that we're heading this direction where we're getting release games that are just going to be patched later.
Yeah,
and it's like a full price game, and I mean it's been that way for a while, but it just seems like it's just getting even worse.
That's why I really hope that Forspoken will be a finished game and feel like a finished game when it comes out after this half-year delay.
Yeah,
I really hope so. Otherwise, no. There's no saving Luminous Productions, I guess.
But yeah, so moving on here, Season 2 of The First Soldier has started. I have not had time to dive in yet. I did update the app, and I downloaded the assets inside the game. I looked at some of the sets. They look really cool. I haven't played any matches in a while because I've just been so busy with other things. So I really want to start playing this again. And I know that we talked about potentially doing a more the First Soldier centered or focused episode. So gonna have to kind of get into it a little bit more before we do that. And what did you think about season 2? Did you kind of look at it?
I personally, I don't really look at it actively, but passively, because in our Discord server, there's especially one person who plays it intensely, who keeps posting all the news and the new tweets and new infos, new outfits and stuff, and that's where I basically get my picture from this game. And it gets constant updates, especially in the outfit department. And I think the newest ones are Minerva, very interesting, curious. Genesis, very interesting, curious. So if anybody thought his likeness, or at least the main design, would be an issue, probably not. Well, and I think his face can also be altered or designed in a way that it doesn't resemble Gact. So I don't think it would be a problem if they want to use him in Remake. And they also need to use him in Ever Crisis, of course, but that's more chibi style. So, well, not in Battle. In Battle is also kind of discount remake style, graphic wise. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that it's no issue. So if anybody's holding on to the thought that Genesis won't appear anywhere in the subsequent remake parts because of licensing issues or likeness issues, don't hold your breath.
Yeah, but they might just ask Gact for his permission or whatever.
Maybe. Could be. Why or not? They just design him in a way that it doesn't interfere with the contract or with anything. I don't know.
Gact isn't performing because of health issues, so let's, employ him, give him some money.
Right. Well, you never know what happens. I personally don't really mind, as long as they don't shove him into our faces, reciting levels all the time. Then I don't really mind, because I didn't dislike the character. I just disliked his performance in some scenes. It was just too much in Crisis Core. But in general, his story is very tragic, actually. So I don't think his story or his character was badly written, at least in concept. It was more the execution that suffered a little bit. And execution is what's really hit and miss in Square Enix games, especially Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy XIII, execution, rather bad. Concepts and graphics and gameplay, really good. Besides a few hiccups. But yeah. And presentation and in the remake is, as we talked about extensively, is comparatively really, really good, I feel. So it's just something to look forward to. But back to the First Soldier, this is mostly just gameplay focused. I think story-wise, we only have those intro movies for each season, if I remember correctly. And those are basically either just setting up this 30 years in the past when the soldier program started, and some other scenes which we already know from the original, like Hojo killing Gast, which I think also happened. Wait, it didn't happen 30 years ago, because Aerith would be over 30 by now. But yeah, I probably should look a little bit more into it, because I just don't have the time, or I mostly also don't remember to look into it. So I think for the next time when we have certain games on the docket here, which we talk about, I try to find a time to look into them a little bit more, to talk about them more.
That's okay.
Let's say more competently, because this is, I think it's much more fun for the listeners. But I try. So let us know if I should go really ham on everything, and I'll try. If you don't care, if you're content with me just rambling about it, I'm also content with keeping doing it. So let us know.
Well, I usually do research and just kind of try to find the information so that, I'm in the loop about things, and then we share it and you give your opinion.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on here, the Chocobo GP Fiasco. So, Chocobo GP was released in early March, and I really wanted to play this game. I don't have my Switch anymore, which is unfortunate. So I don't think that I'm going to be able to play it unless they, release like a multi-platform version of this game, which I think they should. But right now, what's happening is there's issues with microtransactions and grinding. So I did a little bit of research online. So basically, what happened was the game is released and you have to pay full price for the game. But then there are other characters that are locked away behind a paywall, like a season pass, that you also have to pay for. And then when you buy the season pass, you have to grind for a very, very, very long time to unlock the characters that you want, like Cloud or other characters. So people were really upset about this and went online and obviously complained, which props to them because it's absolutely ridiculous. And I totally agree. I understand, making a profit from Square Enix and that sort of thing, but it's just abuse at this point. Like, why is the game full price if it's just filled with microtransactions? It doesn't make sense. Like, we should have one or the other. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We should have the game is free to play, and then it has a bunch of microtransactions inside or in a season pass, kind of like the First Soldier, right? But that's even just cosmetics. So there's two ways about this that I think that they could fix it. Here's what they did. So what they did was they told all players will get an extra 500 mithril, which is like in-game currency, which that's what you buy. You buy mithril to unlock things like within the game. Starting in season 2, mithril is going to be a reward that you get in the prize pass. And then the current XP requirements to level up the prize pass is going to be significantly reduced. It says balance changes won't arrive until season 2, and then new courses will be added in season 2 for all players. But focusing on like the microtransactions and everybody's disappointment with that, I think what they could do is they could change it so that the characters are unlockable, but you can buy the characters. Okay, so like if I want to buy Cloud, I can pay $3.99 or I can pay $5 for Cloud because that's what I want to do. But then if there's cosmetics that can be unlocked, like whether it's, stickers or different paint colors for the vehicle that the characters are driving, like that sort of stuff are unlockables by leveling up the prize pass. So it's not feeling detrimental to the people that just, bought the game outright that might not want to pay for the season pass, you know what I mean? But do you want to buy the characters? So I just don't know. Like other games, that's what they do. They like it's not like the characters you pay for, like you buy them as DLC, but then it's not like you have to unlock the characters by grinding so long. It doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, you'd think they've learned after all this time, after all those other games struggled, or, well, not struggled, but made the same mistake and had to backpedal a lot. Like, I think Destiny had this problem for a while, and other games as well. I think even in one of the newer Assassin's Creed games, they were so grindy, and so many other games, full price games that had microtransactions and even incentives within the game design to buy something because it would take ages otherwise. Also, Star Wars Battlefront 2 was also very egregious in that department, and they also had to reduce prices and stuff. I don't really know what they thought about this, and I guess they can't use mainline or mainline adjacent Final Fantasy titles to rip off customers, because then it would probably lose all credibility and lose customers outright. So they need to use those side games, let's say, smaller side games to get the money they want. Probably because they thought, oh, Guardians of the Galaxy didn't make as much revenue as they wanted to. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get in some more money with this game here, and Final Fantasy XIV still does well, but we don't care about that. We want more. I don't know what their thought process is, because I'm not a marketing person. I'm not a financial person. I'm not a corporate person. I don't really look into those things. Mm-hmm. It's just from a consumer perspective, but my personal gripe with those games is, as you said before, if you pay full price for a game, there should be no microtransactions in there. Everything should be unlockable. Maybe you can like add additional content through DLC, like additional characters, additional costumes. Other games do that too, especially JRPGs like the Tales games. Sometimes you can just buy like the bathing suit outfits for $5 or something. It's just if you want to, or something like that. It's just additional stuff, but it's not in the game, and you have to unlock it by buying. And as far as I understand, I haven't played it, I haven't seen it, but the characters are already in there, just locked, and you have to buy them by grinding your mithril, if that's what it is. And yeah, it's just
no. You have to buy the season pass after buying the game, and then you have to level up the season pass to get Cloud.
What the actual fork? Fork, knife, and spoon all in one, seriously.
But like, it has a roster of characters that you can unlock by just playing the game by default, so you don't need to buy the season pass. But people want Cloud. They want their most favorite Final Fantasy characters. So in order to do that, it's like you're being punished. It shouldn't be that way. Like Mario Kart is like, they did it right? Like, you could buy the characters. It was a pack, and then it came with the character, but also like a course, like a new track, and the character, and I think different like colors. I can't remember. I haven't played Mario Kart in forever, but I really, really love Mario Kart games. Like, one of my favorite racing games that Nintendo have made.
Like with the Super Smash Brothers, there's a new character DLC with its own stage and own music, and it's just not there in the beginning, but it comes later, and then it's like this live service model, which I like.
But if you don't want to buy those, the game is still great without it. You know what I mean? Like, you can still use those characters, but it's just unfortunate. So I'm hoping we'll see what they come back with, though, because they did apologize, but it just looks like everybody's getting $500 or 500 mithril, which I don't know what that converts to in-game currency, which is probably not enough to buy the season pass. It's probably like half, so then you still have to spend money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know, but it seems really unfortunate, and I think that the way that I propose could fix it, where they remove having to buy a season pass to get a character. Just release the characters as payable DLC.
Yeah, exactly.
Like $5 for Cloud, or even $10.
But with a new course.
Yeah, with a new course. Yeah. And then there's cosmetics that are unlockable and other things by upgrading the season pass that don't affect the gameplay. What are they doing?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's another instance of the big ask. Like if you're trying to get something, you ask for something egregiously big. Then the other one like tries to find you in the middle, and the middle is what you actually wanted in the first place. But if you ask for what you wanted in the first place, and the others are then still not satisfied, then you're getting in lower than you wanted to. This is with getting a raise, for example, or even getting your pay, your salary up when you start a new job. Like, yeah, it's just something that I've learned over the years, that you can't just ask for what you actually want. You need to ask for more to get what you actually want. Otherwise, that's maybe what they were going for. It just went all in with all the egregiousness and didn't really care about the backlash, because then they can backpedal and seem like the good guys. Okay, we listen to customer feedback. We hear you. We lower the requirements. We give you free mithril, and then they seem like the good guys, and then they actually have the system they wanted in the first place. That's my guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, that's my take.
They should have just went full on one way or the other. They didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. They're doing both things. They're charging for a game and then charging again, and locking characters behind a paywall, which you have to grind for. Like, it's ridiculous. The game should be free to play and it should be on mobile. Because I just feel like this is probably fine in Japan because they're so used to playing like mobile games where it's just gacha games and microtransactions, which they just play the games on the go and they just spend money and more money on like games that they enjoy, but it's like a mobile game on their phone or something like that. I don't know. I don't want to speak for the people of Japan. They're not a monolith. Like, everybody's different. But maybe that would fly more there than it would here.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know what they were thinking. And I hope that they change it. It sounds like they're making improvements. However, I'm rereading this again. It says, starting in season 2, Mithril will be a reward in the prize pass. You still have to buy the prize pass to get Mithril as a reward.
Huh.
Right?
Oh boy.
It's sad. I really wanted to like this game. I don't even have a Switch, but I really would like to play it if it comes to like another platform. But anyways, it's too bad.
Yeah, it's really too bad. It could really be also be what you said, because it's more accepted in Japan. They're always on the go. That's why mobile games and the Switch is so successful, because most of them don't play at home because they don't have time. They're always commuting. So I don't know. Some probably don't really know what to do with their salary if they have a large enough salary. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Or it's just Square Enix being greedy again.
Yeah, they should just not charge for the game. It should just be a free download on the eShop or whatever.
I think that's probably what could save it very easily.
That's what they need to do. Yeah. All right, Vyzz. So moving on here to our major discussion topic for today's episode, we're talking about the progression transfer between the different parts of Final Fantasy VII Remake. So first off, you're going to start us off here talking about the integration of the progression transfer into the story.
Yes. Over 1 hour in, and we finally get to the juicy parts. Apologies for meandering before, but I hope you were entertained nonetheless.
Entertained. It's okay.
All right. So with integration to story, I thought, as I said in the beginning, I thought a lot about that in the beginning of 2019. Had a whole script ready, like 17 or 18 pages in Word, and everything sorted out. And then I just left it there because of other reasons. So now let's get into it. I think the most important point to keep in mind is it's one complete story, but has multiple games. It's not like Final Fantasy XIII that was a finished game, and then the next one came out and had a new story, or a sequel story, and new system or upgrade battle system, same for Lightning Returns, or also Final Fantasy X-2. Here, everything is already there. We already know the story. We already know what to expect in general. Not the details, because they will change more and more, I suppose. But this is, we have to look at this from a different angle. So what I start out with when thinking about it, there are two main concepts, so to speak. It's a hard reset every time, like the sequel approach, basically. Gameplay or balancing and carryover is completely disconnected from the story. You just have to think of it as, okay, we keep going. They don't have all the gear and abilities anymore, but it's just a new entry, which would amount to a ludonarrative dissonance. So meaning disconnection between game and narrative, or gameplay and narrative. And the other one is transfer over as much as possible. That it's actually just switching discs as in the original. You switch discs and then you just keep going with everything you had. This would probably be the most ideal version for us, but I don't think this is feasible, as we see later. And this would be a ludonarrative harmony, I call this, because it harmonizes and we just keep going. We all have everything we learned and obtained before. It's not just magically gone. But yeah, we'll see later why this is probably not possible. But the hard reset approach would kind of be in line with the Kingdom Hearts games. there the story wasn't clear from the beginning, of course. So they had 1 and then 2 and then 3 and all the others between with different stories. But all those games where you play Sora also remembers everything that has been before, but he still starts at level 1 and has his basic Keyblade and low stats and everything. So he basically gets reset every time. But the story does explain why, which kind of works. It's maybe a little bit like whimsical, almost feels like how to explain the reset, but at least it works there, I feel. And the same as I mentioned before with the other Final Fantasy sequels, because they're basically just different games and the story goes forward. But even if you play with the same characters, there's been time in between, and it really makes sense to start from the beginning, especially because the battle system and exploration is different.
Well, they can justify it as well with, okay, there's been time in between.
Yeah, exactly.
The story has continued, but it's a different time, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Like, for example, the difference between Final Fantasy X and X-2.
Yeah, it's 1 or 2 years, I think, between. I don't quite remember. But then Yuna also learned a lot, and she completely turns over a new leaf and becomes a gunner.
Exactly. So it's like a different game completely. And then if we talk about the 13 sequels, it's a different story. It's a continuation of the same story, but like you're not even controlling the same character.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Lightning is gone, and then you are her sister in the second one. So...
And the new character. And then in the third game, you play Lightning again, who is basically a god by then.
Yes, exactly. So it makes sense, right?
Yes, definitely. So now I think there are 2 questions we can ask ourselves. Should the hard reset dictate the story? Like turn around or adjust the story in a way to explain why everything is reset every time? Or should the story dictate how the progression transfer works? I think those are the main directions we could go if we want ludonarrative harmony. If you don't care about that, then just go for it. So it really depends what they will be going for. It's hard to predict, because they could opt for completely separating those two, like just create the story they want, tell the story they want, and each time it's just completely an isolated game with its isolated balancing and progression, and don't care about what happened before. This could work if we just I think there's also a term for it, to just ignore it, but I don't remember it right off from the top of my head. But yeah, to predict this is hard, but that's why we're here to talk about it.
I think that some people will probably be disappointed.
Yeah.
But it just, it just depends on what they decide to go with. But I think that it can be done either way, and it can be done well and properly, so that like people aren't upset. You know what I mean? Because there's going to be people who want access to, everything and the levels and everything, like the harmony, like you had said.
Yeah.
Like transfer over as much as possible, and then people who won't really care about that, and they're fine with like a hard reset. You know what I mean? So,
for sure, yeah. The thing is also, you have spent so much time in the first game to level up everything, to collect all the weapons, all the accessories, and level up all the materia, get your perfect loadout, and beat all the bosses, and then you start the next game, which is a direct continuation of the story. The only thing in between is the walk to Calm. But why would they forget everything and lose everything there? That's where I think where the problem could arise. So, but what if we want to make story and gameplay reset or progression reset congruent, like explain the story that explains the reset? I think there are ways they could explain
Absolutely.
it. Yeah. So for example, in Calm, since we were in the singularity and just basically reset the timeline, like the old timeline won't happen anymore because there's nothing to correct it to make it happened the same way. Whispers are not there anymore, or at least that's what we think. It's an unknown journey. So, in my previous really huge hour-long analyses, I came to the conclusion that the first game happened in the live stream's memories. Then those events were altered more and more and more. The Whispers tried to course correct, but then weren't able to. And then we defeated them. Then the reset happened, and now we are basically in the real reset timeline that will overwrite the old one. That's basically it might not work exactly like that, but that's just the thinking that I think how it works mechanically. And with this starting point, I think we can just say that, okay, let's reset it because it's now a new reality. Everything that happened before it happened, but they only remember what happened, but don't have anything from before. So we can start completely new. And
interesting.
If we think, or if we go for 4 parts, let's say they stop at Nibelheim for the first part, the second part, when old Nibelheim stuff is gone with new content and Vincent, whatever, then there could something happen with Vincent's nightmare or chaos that gets introduced. Maybe we fall into the Mako reactor like Sephiroth before, and I don't know, just something completely off the rails, which also warrants a reset.
It does make sense.
Yeah. And then after Northern Crater, it's even easier because Cloud is gone. Actually in the live stream this time.
Exactly.
So he gets reset definitely. He only retains his Buster Sword and maybe the memories. That's it. Tifa and Barrett are caught. So they're probably stripped off everything they had.
Yeah.
But then you still have Kechi, you have Vincent, you have Sid, and you have Yuffie. Maybe they can change something that they get apprehended too. On maybe not Kechi, because this one is still a Shinra spy, and he's able to bail the others out, and then also bail Tifa and Barrett out, or well, Barrett, because Tifa's still in there, has to escape by her own. I think this will be possible to maybe even Kechi dies, explodes, I don't know what, and then Kechi number 3 does the rescuing. Sense. So that every character has a reason for why they lose all the gear and all the material.
Like it explodes, but then they just send another copy.
Yeah, exactly.
That would make sense.
Exactly. So that's how I think they could work out how to make a reset feasible and not jarring by just saying, okay, they didn't forget anything. The story just keeps going and you just don't have anything anymore. Deal with it. That's this approach. So do you have any more points to this integration or disintegration into the story?
Yeah, so I just said that I think that everything needs to be and will hopefully be explained in the narrative. So I do want an explanation. If they do a hard reset for part 2, if it happens, I do want an explanation for it. And I think that we're going to get one, because I think that given the fact that like this game, they're really diving into the narrative and it's really narratively focused, I think that we're going to get an explanation for it. I just don't know exactly what that's going to look like or where or when it's potentially going to happen. But I think that there are opportunities for it to happen during the narrative that makes sense in the greater story that technically might not have existed in the OG, but they could have because it wasn't explained, obviously. Kind of like how this new mission in Intermission with Yuffie, right?
Right, yeah.
It's like this happened, but there's not really, it could have happened because we don't know as the player of the OG that this potentially could have happened where she was in Midgar before. We don't know that.
Yeah.
Because we don't see her until later. So something like that, where it's like, there's no indication in the OG that would suggest that this could not happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there's specific ways it can work, which you've already explained, which I actually didn't really think about. The calm transition from memory into a new reality via this singularity is very interesting to me, because at the end, it seems like everything's been resolved and this, like, it's been destroyed. So then maybe I'm getting visions of like a cutscene where maybe like their gear just kind of dissipates into like particles or something like that, like their weapons, and they're like, what's happening? You know, like, or something like that. And then you go to inventory, everything's gone. You don't have anything anymore because this is kind of like the new reality, right? And you start from scratch, which I really do like that idea. I just don't know when that's going to happen. And it could also be, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, saying it out loud, is that it happens over time. It doesn't happen right away, because what's happening is everything is being corrected. It's like a ripple through time.
Yeah,
kinda.
right. Yeah.
So when they actually leave Midgar and they encounter enemies, they might still have their gear and everything. And then it kind of is like a ripple effect where gradually their things just disappear.
Maybe during the flashback,
which could explain getting to calm. But the issue is, how do you would have to transfer the save data information from part 1 to part 2 in order for you to play that small portion of the beginning of part 2 up until calm, like getting to calm, basically. Right?
Yeah.
Which, what about players coming in that are just starting at playing part 2? Well, I guess they would just give them, if they don't have any previous saves from part 1, then they would just give them a default layout.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Whatever, and then that's taken away. And it could be explained that way, right? Which totally makes sense in the narrative of what the story of what they're trying to do and trying to tell with Remake. I think that it makes sense.
In several conversations, people have suggested that Yuffie could be the one who steals everything, and then I think we talked about it in an earlier episode, because this was also the case in the new threat mod for the original Final Fantasy PC version. But then they just chased down Yuffie, fought against her, and then got everything back, which is not quite the same. But this has flown out of the window because Yuffie is now standing in front of the Midgardsormr marsh, and she hasn't met the group yet. So, or at least that's what I gather from how she reacts and from her monologue there. So this will most likely not happen.
Yeah, I did say that it could be that she sees the group, she takes notice of them, and she's spying on them, like watching them. So she does eventually go to Calm. And then she steals their equipment earlier in the story. So it happens during the flashback sequence in Calm. And then after the flashback sequence, they realize like all their stuff's gone. And then my idea was that there's actually, you're just transported to Calm directly right at the beginning. They show you a cutscene, and then you're on the truck and you get delivered to Calm. There's actually no gameplay. Like you're not fighting anything between Midgar and Calm, because obviously we got that cutscene. They're already in the truck. So it starts and the truck is moving them. It transports them there, and we're just getting more story. And it starts with everything locked. If you go into the menu, you actually don't see any equipment or anything like that. Like it's locked. And then the flashback happens, but it's a playable flashback.
Hopefully.
And then what's happening when you're playing the flashback, you just have whatever equipment Cloud has at the time during the flashback accessible to you. And then when you come back after that, that's the gameplay. Like the flashback is the gameplay. Most of it is narrative and a cutscene, and you're getting story. And they let you go free from that after the flashback sequence is done. And then you realize everything's been stolen by Yuffie, because it shows her taking it during the flashback sequence. And then you have nothing. And then you're like, oh my God, everything's gone. Whatever, you have to start from scratch. So, and that's how they introduced new weapons that were like, you got them in the world during these parts of the game, but you don't have access to them, your previous weapons, until much later in part 2 when we get to Wutai and we get everything back. And they actually have a chest where she has everything stored. And at that point, you've already leveled things up, so you can actually transfer your inventory between the chest and like the party, essentially. So if you do want to get those weapons back, like you can. We're going to talk about this a little bit later because I did write this down. So. But it made sense in my head. But the whole issue with that is just the level, right? Like, how would you go from being like level 50 to level 1 with just by what I just said, right? Like her stealing your equipment and everything. It would take care of the gear, but not the leveling system, which you kind of explain later, an option that they could do, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I agree with you where I'm like, okay, so if there's 4 parts, okay, so what's going to happen? The end of part 4, let's say if there's 4 parts, we're going to be like what, level 200 or level 150, or there's no level cap, you know, like in Elden Ring, I don't know if there's a level cap, but when I played Bloodborne, like my character, when I finished was level 249. So like, are they going to do that where it's just infinitely like scalable or... But we'll see. But anyway, it does make sense. Like, what do you think about my idea about like you're transported there directly with in the truck, right? And then you get out and there's story, and then you actually aren't let loose to actually combat or in the game. The gameplay doesn't start until the flashback starts.
Yeah, that's the beginning. I'm completely on board with. I'm also one of those who advocates for Remake Part 2 starting right into the back at the back of the truck. Like maybe you see the surroundings and it zooms in first, but this is the start. And maybe after after the dragon fight, before we arrive in Nibelheim, it cuts back to the present, and then we know, okay, it's a flashback. Cloud is telling the others we're already in Calm. Then it switches back to the flashback and keeps going. That's how I envision it starting. So this would certainly work. So if we say, okay, Yuffie went to Calm and had nothing, needed stuff, and then noticed the party. Also, she does see Barrett and Tifa in the slums, so she would recognize those two, at least.
And then she would be like, oh, well, they definitely have materia, which she really wants.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then she can rob them poor, rob them clean when they sleep, and then get away. And
at the inn.
Yeah. And I think that's where the problem starts, because I'm pretty sure we will meet her between the Mythal Mines and Junon, somewhere in there between, as we talked about in a previous episode, most likely in Fort Condor, because it makes the most sense. Maybe we also see the other new Avalanche members from Avalanche HQ again, like Neo, Billy Bob, and Polk, and the others. That's at least my hope. So by then, she would have needed to get rid of everything, because otherwise we would be able to get it back then and there, and then just get a whole bunch of materia and items and weapons and accessories and bangles and what have you. And that's probably for just too much, and some of them might be too, I don't know, obsolete by then. I don't know. It's just from a game design perspective, it just doesn't really make sense.
But they can change when you encounter her from the original. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
I know that technically we don't encounter her until a little bit later, but maybe she jumps into battle with you, you know what I mean? Like outside of the Mithril Mine or something like that, and she has your gear, so but you can't control her yet, and then you have to fight her, but I don't know. She tells you she stole all of your stuff, and then you fight her, and then she just says, oh, well, it's already in Wutai, like basically, like I shipped it back there somehow. Like, I don't know. She's got connections, you know, she's a ninja.
That's the other thing. Yeah, exactly. That's what would need to happen, that she kind of she can travel with all those, with all this stuff. So she need to kind of...
Yeah, but remember also there was that little thread of story that we got from Chiche, he's like obviously a spy and he knows shipping. So maybe she had Chiche like ship it in a container somehow. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it is all possible. But right now, when I just put the analysis and the logic hat on my head, it sounds cool, but I don't think it really works. Like when you just consider the whole picture. And also, yeah, it's just gone. She stole it, and then it's like the whole group would be hostile towards her and wouldn't even take her along. But if they don't know that she's a material thief or a thief in general, then they would take her along when they just like fight against her and prevail, and she does her thing. Those are the things that I just can't warm up to. I think that the thought, in and of itself is cool, but as I said, when you consider everything else, it's just I don't think it really works that way. Also, when you consider her scene, the ending scene from Intermission, it doesn't seem like she has met anybody yet. She's still alone and looks for other people. Like she practices her speech when she comes across worthy people who can help her in her quest. And this scene already happens like between the Chocobo farm and the marsh. So it would be past calm. So even from that perspective, I don't think this will happen anyway. But in the end, you never know what Square Enix cooks up and changes and does and everything. It's hard. Maybe it's not really not even Yuffie. Maybe it's there are other operatives who robbed them and just shipped them off to wherever, and they have no idea. But still, that this needs to be woven into the story and come up later, and I don't really know how to integrate that. It's really hard to think about it on the top, like right there on the spot. But maybe it's something to just keep in mind. But until then, I'll stick with my idea that they just don't have it anymore. Everything went up into smoke because of the reality change. Timey, wimey, wibbly wobbly, whatever Doctor Who stuff.
Well, I agree with you.
Instead of time, it's just memory, but yeah.
I do think that they could potentially make it work with Yuffie taking everything. And then obviously, like, why are you fighting her then?
Yeah, because she attacks you and wants to steal your stuff.
In the original?
Yeah. And also in the original, the earliest you can encounter her is between Junon and the Mithril Mines, because there are the first forests you can enter. And I think the last one is before Rocket Town, where it's basically guaranteed that you encounter her. I don't think, maybe even other forests, like around the Temple of the Ancients, if you haven't gotten her yet. I think you can even encounter her there. Basically every forest on the whole world map, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Yuffie is definitely a wild card.
All right, so moving on here, we're talking about what can or should transfer over. So you can go ahead and start, Vyzz. I just added some notes to what you have put here in the document.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start with what is less problematic to reset. Like if we say, okay, what can we reset without disturbing the flow of the gameplay? If you play the games back to back, or even if you don't. I'd say if the inventory is empty, like if you don't have all the potions and grenades and Phoenix Downs and Ethers, I don't think that really matters, because when you start a new game, and all games are full games and should be coherent in and of themselves. So starting with an empty or almost empty inventory, I don't think it's much of a problem, because it's inventory anyway. You start new, you buy stuff, you get stuff, you pick up the items, and it's fine. And same with equipment, because if you already start with full equipment at first, it's a little bit overwhelming, in my opinion, and you're maybe even too strong if you start off, unless this is the starting point and you get even stronger equipment with more material slots and higher stats. This could also work, but more on that later. And levels and stats, this is, in my opinion, those are just numbers. Because it's a new game, you start at level 5, let's say, or 7 again, I don't really care. Then, well, why not? It's just the level within this game. It's just the power level you have, and it's just disconnected from the previous game. And same with the stats. But still, from an emotional perspective, from the feeling gamers get when they start the sequel and are reset to level 1, then kind of feels strange, especially if story-wise nothing has been reset. well, maybe reality has reset. This is basically the only explanation that can say, okay, now you're back at level 1 because it's now a new reality, and now you go into the world. But still, it's possible. But what would be really weird if they're completely gone is learned abilities and limit breaks, because this is something they learned. It's in their memory, in the memory of the characters. It's not something they have physically on themselves. So that's the problem. So if we start and we have only Braver again, let's say, for Cloud and his cross slash, or even only the Ascension limit break, I don't think if this would feel right or even make sense any way you turn it around. So I think this is something that should remain. The abilities and the limit breaks. And so yeah, it's basically 2 categories. What characters have, the physical aspects, the inventory, potions, the weapons, armor, and so forth, and what they've learned in their memory. And we know that they remember what happened before when we listen to them at the end of the main game and intermission as well. So it doesn't feel like they have forgotten what they've been through. So they know. And they certainly also remember their learned abilities and limit breaks and so on. Of course, you could separate those again, like ludonarrative dissonance, as I've mentioned before. Just ignore it, and then it's good. But I personally think this would feel very, very weird. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Now I'm reading what I wrote here. I just think that if we are kind of like there's an explanation why we're reset to level 1 and it affects the characters, then it does make sense to have 0% proficiency on the weapons and you don't have the abilities anymore because they've somehow been impacted. I do agree with you that they themselves have done this and it's in their memory and their memories are intact.
Yeah.
So I don't know how necessarily that would be fixed. It does make sense for the equipment to be gone because they obtain those pieces of equipment and gear and everything during the time of like part 1, but then after the singularity is gone and like everything like was destroyed or whatever, then it does make sense for the weapons to be gone and everything like you said in the beginning. But just how would they get past like not having those abilities because they had the proficiency, they learned those techniques so they could use the abilities whenever they wanted.
Exactly.
It didn't matter like what weapon they had, right? But if there is a way to like a narrative plot to explain like why they're reset as characters and they're just all like level 1 again and they just forget those things, then I mean, I'm open to it being a reason like why they don't have those same abilities for the weapons anymore. But I feel like we would need an explanation for that, though.
Maybe that's they even mentioned this. Maybe if the first fight comes up and then Cloud says something, hey, wait, aren't I forgetting something? I feel something's gone. I don't know, just I'm spitballing here, but they notice that something is not there anymore, and you see, okay, I don't have all the abilities anymore. I only have like Braver again, and Aerith has only, I don't know, Arcane Ward or something, or the Soul Drain, because this makes the most sense for her. I don't know.
But they could explain it through they actually do lose their memories of it, because technically if everything that they went through is now moot, like it's just gone, then their memories would start to fade of those things, maybe?
Hard to say, because the experiences are still there. They must remember everything that's happened to them in the first game. Everything is even in the singularity.
Because they still know each other as people.
Exactly. So also forgetting the abilities, which is also part of their memory, would really feel strange, in my opinion. That's the gripe I have if abilities would be gone and the limit breaks.
I just felt like they could introduce a new battle system. Like it's the same battle system where you get to attack and just regular attacks and stuff like that, but there might be changes to it where there's team up attacks and then those replace the abilities from the weapons. Like there's no, because your weapons are now gone or something like that. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of ways it could be done, but it's very difficult. It's more difficult than, like you said, the inventory, the stats, and the equipment and the gear, right? Because they've learned those abilities.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think let's just return to levels and stats for a moment, because I think there are possibilities where I can reset them and still feel right, because I had an idea, a pretty elaborate idea about level stats and items and stuff as well, but that's for later.
Yeah.
That actually the level itself will get reset, but not the stats. You still have the stats like I don't know, maybe a 100 attack and 56 defense, what have you. But let's say we stopped at level 50 in part 1, and level 50 represents level 5 in part 2. So it's just scaled back. If you were level 40 and port your save over, then you will be at level 4. But we'll have the same stats as before. It's just scales differently. Like the stat progression across the levels is different. It's compressed from level 1 to 50 to level 1 to 5. And then it just keeps rising up until you're at level 50 in part 2. And then you have just higher stats. And then you see in the stats, well, they're still the same at the same strength, but the level just represents your progression in this game. Because level itself doesn't say anything. What stats do, stats represent the actual strength of your attacks, of how you take damage or not, how proficient you are at casting magic or receiving magic damage, what have you, and speed. So this is one way they could go with also porting it over, and don't feel like the player lose everything, because if they have leveled up to 50, they are at level 5. That's good. So you kind of have a little bit of a head start. Maybe not level 5. Maybe the starting level should vary between level 5 and 10, because Cloud is level 1 in the flashback, and if he would be level 1 again after the flashback, if you haven't leveled up at all, well, it's practically not possible. But still, if you're level 2, then 5 years later would feel weird. So maybe between level 5 and 10 or something.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's how I envisioned it back in 2019. But in the end, the problem is, especially with HP, that it might go off completely the rails. But
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like an increased HP pool. The stats carry over, but the level is just showing as level 1. But that means then that the enemies have to do more damage because you have such a high HP pool. Otherwise, it's just super easy.
Yeah.
Right.
But we'll get a little bit more into the stats, especially, and levels across all the games. But this is just like how the transfer itself could work for levels, of levels and stats.
Just talking about the proficiency again, like you can do something for a lot and then you become more proficient at it, but they could also say like you lost proficiency because you haven't done it in so long. But that would make sense if it's like a year.
Yeah, which is not. It's like a day or
which
something.
It's not. It's literally like a day. So you know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, that's a really hard one.
It is certainly, yeah. And then if you think about, okay, we do want the inventory to carry over, because it makes sense. They still have that, especially between parts 2 and 3 and maybe 4, depending on how many parts there will be. Then we do want that, let's say, and then it becomes a problem, because the inventory, especially the potions and certain materia, are balanced in a way to make sense in terms of the balancing or the progression within the first game or the second game. Then if you take everything of you have into the next game and want to display progression like they are already at this stage, want to become stronger and stronger, and then everything you had in the previous game just becomes more and more obsolete, and then you have just junk in your inventory, basically. So they would need to give you better potions, new ones, or just upgrade them, but then you have already like 100 or 99 high potions, which instead of 1,000 give you maybe 5,000 HP. I don't know. Just balancing really becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And with gear also, so either the gear stays the same and the new gear is significantly better, or they harmonize, like the gear you get has just even more different or other focal points. Like the hard edge is pure strength, the mithril sword is pure magic, and the boss sword is balance, but also has defense plus, and they all have a little bit different skills. Some have like, I don't know, HP drain, or if you're low HP, you have higher defense and stuff like that. This is also a little bit different between the weapons, which could work, but then at some point you have so many weapons, and all of them have to feel unique so that you don't really need to, okay, this is the best one, I'll just stick with that, so that all weapons have their place. So this can really become a problem. On the other hand, I think the .hack series did that you could transfer over like basically everything and your gear, but they were all only like relevant in the first few hours, and then you got better gear and higher gear with higher stats, and then you could just sell everything.
Right.
But this doesn't quite work because the precedent from part 1 is all weapons are basically equal. They just have different weights in different stat areas and different like you just play a little bit different with each weapon basically. So it's not like in the original where just each weapon has just a higher damage output basically, and the only main difference is otherwise is, okay, this one has double growth or even triple growth, but a little bit less fewer material slots, and this one has individual slots and the other one has linked slots, so you still had to weigh that a little bit against each other. But okay, this new sword has like 30 or 40 attack points more, so the other one is just not feasible anymore. I want to do damage. Yeah, I think this is really a hard one to tackle if you don't if you don't go into extreme detail.
Mm-hmm. And then also what they've done is they've created the weapons to be upgradable. So in the original, they weren't. So yes, you had a bunch of weapons, but they were just obsolete later in the story because you just kept getting more powerful and powerful weapons with more materia slots. But now they've created a problem because like our weapons from part 1 are so powerful because we've leveled them up and we've spent time grinding it to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then like to take them all away for part 2. And then, you know, we get new weapons that are now like we've never had that have new abilities is super interesting, right? Because we're going to upgrade those and make those more powerful. But then giving us the weapons that we had in part 1, in part 2, let's say they give it to us and they're fully upgraded and they have everything. Okay, fine. But then they have to do something. Otherwise, we're just super OP. Or let's say if they say, okay, so you're going to transfer everything, it's going to reset the level of all your weapons. You're going to have the weapons, but you have to start upgrading them again from scratch. That's going to be annoying as well.
Yeah,
but that's going to be annoying because you already know what you're unlocking. You know the abilities that the weapons have, and you have to start all over again, which is kind of boring because you just, I mean, yes, it's been 2 or 3 years since you did it, so maybe you wouldn't mind as much, but maybe, but then you already know what those weapons, the abilities they have, you know, the unlockable, like, you know, like at the end when you're almost unlocking all of the
material slots,
the materia, like the orbs or whatever, it has like reprieve.
Oh, the skills, the special skills,
Like, you know that it has those because you've already, so that's kind of boring to me, which they've created this issue for themselves, but they are not going to have Cloud in part 2 not having a Buster Sword. There is no way. That is his iconic weapon. So it might make sense for the rest of the weapons to not make it, but like they cannot not have him without the Buster Sword. So like I don't know what they're gonna do. It's really, they've kind of created a lot of issues for themselves by like making
sure.
this game into multiple parts, which is unfortunate. If they just had the game, I know it's like impossible for them to do, but just if you can imagine it, like you wouldn't have these issues that they have to somehow kind of fix. Maybe they don't even see it as being an issue and they're not even going to have any story explanation at all. And when you start the game, it just says, just so you know, everything's been reset to 0. And there's like a little dialogue box and explains, and that's it. And you're just set, you everything, like you have your stuff, but it's your level 1 or whatever.
What could also work is you only retain the Buster Sword, the rest is gone. But the Buster Sword is fully upgraded, but the new sword you get is like on the same level as the Buster Sword, but on level 1. Like if you start upgrading it, it will become stronger and stronger as the Buster Sword. Then, well, maybe you won't be using the Buster, or you can level up the Buster Sword even more, or the Buster Sword is reset. You can, but it already has everything from before, but you learn new stuff on top of everything from a fully upgraded Buster Sword. So that's it's kind of that it's still relevant, but it's at the base level when you start upgrading the new swords you get. And same for the other characters, of course.
Like Cloud still having a Buster Sword is a possibility because this whole like Zack thing being in purgatory or whatever, right? Like he's still in some form of existence, whether it's in the live stream or whatever, but that stuff has happened in the story. So he, like Cloud would have the Buster Sword.
Yes.
So it kind of makes sense narratively why the other weapons would disintegrate or something or whenever they fade away, and then but he still has the Buster Sword
because it's intrinsic to him. It's just there.
To Zack.
Yeah.
Right, because Zack is, we don't know what's going on with Zack. Potentially he's alive, he's in the live stream, we don't know, but he's not like gone with the destroying of the singularity and the whispers and all that stuff. So anyway, I don't know. But yeah, I did put here, like, I don't think that the healing items are inventory items, like our gear possibly will transfer. I said just the weapons and material. Because I said, like, let's say we've just farmed, like, how many Gacha Damerongs? Right? Like, how would you just get a Gacha Damerong, like, starting the game and you just have full limit break? Like, that does not make any sense. And then what's the point for us to farm all of part 2 for this ultimate item, quote unquote? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if you beat Vyzz, you have 3 Götter Dämmerung for Cloud and the others. So you would start with 3
like right
pieces.
At part 2, the beginning, here you go. Like, everybody's just
buff.
Yeah.
Buff yeah, definitely. No, that's really true. So the only thing that could transfer over are weapons, but maybe not even that. Possibly just the base weapons. For Cloud, it's definitely the Buster Sword. For the others, doesn't really need to be base weapons. They can have just new ones they picked up on, like, in Calm before Cloud started retelling his story. Barrett, well, you see Barrett's gun arm, the Gatling gun. You see Tifa's gloves, the metal knuckles, I think they're called. You don't see Aerith's staff, but I think they will just start with their base weapons again, which could be just leveled
starting
up.
Weapon, like
starting weapons, But then the first additional weapons you get need to be on the same level in some form or another. So they already have similar stats, just different weights to, like, more attack, less defense, or all the other way around. But still on the level of a fully upgraded Buster Sword. That's where I think that's where it needs to go. And in the Buster Sword, maybe you already see those 6 mini solar systems that are fully upgraded, but then you get new ones.
Yeah.
And for all the other weapons, you just have the new circles.
Yes.
Unless they completely overhaul the whole weapon system. Maybe they're not even upgradable anymore, or differently upgradable with a skill tree, not just those weird circles. Yeah, something like that. It's really
it could
hard
be completely different system.
Yeah.
And they like to do that, you know what I mean? And I know it was mentioned as well, where it's going to be they were saying that it's going to be similar to 13, where like the release schedule anyway, like every 2 years we're going to get a sequel. But if we're looking at those games, the systems are different. So maybe it's just going to be a completely different upgrade system, or we don't upgrade them.
Maybe, yeah, you never know. It's hard to say, yeah. I still hope there's some form of upgrade because I think it's more enticing to use different weapons if you are able to upgrade them and they all have their relevance and up until the end of each game, especially the Buster Sword.
Yeah.
Because in the original, you have the hard edge, you can steal it, and then you buy the Mithril Saber, and the Buster Sword just is obsolete until the end of the game. You can sell it, which is good, but it's just doesn't really do anything unless you want to do a challenge run, like a base weapon only or something. So I think some sort of upgrade system they still need to retain, but not the same one, especially not the navigation system. But I think we've talked about this enough in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then there's another point, money. So let's say you have played so much that your money is like through the roof. You have, I don't know, 500,000 gil, and you start the next game with 500,000 gil. It's like, okay, now we can buy everything. Unless the prices keep going up and up and up, and 500,000 is like, you buy a few weapons and then you're out of money again. But then by the end of the whole series, you will be at like 1 billion gil, and that's not really feasible. So I think money is also something that gets reset, which I also don't mind because it's on the same level as items. It's just not there anymore. You get new ones. It's a new game, so you start from fresh. And if you lose it, you can have a little bit of an explanation for that, and you're done. It's fine. Balancing is restored, and nobody should cry about it. I hope. So yeah, and then a few more points. I think something that we can all agree on, if there are story choices, for example, if the affection system already starts here in part 2, for then the eventual date at the Golden Saucer, if there are 4 parts, let's say, and it stops at Nibelheim, all those choices that affect this system, this dating system or affection system, they must carry over. And I don't think there's any contention. It's also very easily made because, just read the save and there you go. It doesn't affect anything. Yeah. And maybe even other choices like some quests you did or some quests you did not do. And then there's some reference to some quests just to acknowledge, oh, you did do that. Somebody just thanks you for helping them in the past, but they don't if you didn't do the quest or if you don't carry over the quest, something like that. Just not something that's missable, just some acknowledgement of stuff that happened before, if this is a thing, even.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you didn't play the first part, then you're not really missing anything in particular, but it's just maybe the reactions or like those things that would connect are just by default like a set.
Yeah, or maybe
form of like actions or responses from NPCs. Like you don't, and you wouldn't know any different because you never played the first one.
Yeah, exactly. So, especially Johnny. Let's say you didn't do the Johnny quests, which were optional. Only his main involvement in Sector 7 and Sector 6, in Wall Market, where he was in some cutscenes. But other than that, there were also many other encounters with him, especially the side quest in Chapter 14, where his wallet got stolen.
Yeah.
And if we meet him again in Costa del Sol, for example, then he can just thank us and maybe give us a few items, just something that's not really that relevant or game-breaking if we don't get it. Just some bonus as acknowledgement, as a thank you, and a callback to the first game. That's something I really want to. Unless they just opt for, well, we don't care what you did, we just assumed you did everything, and we go from there. This could also work.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
But then there's something like, we'll try to solve this a little bit later, but I tease you there. What about Ra and Ga spells? Would we need like Fire, or Firaga? We've already learned Firaga. What about the next game? What about that one after? Do we just learn higher spells? Do we get a Fire 2 material with Fire 2, FFVIIR 2? There's something weird. Unless we just ignore it and each game has a Fire, Ice, Lightning materia, and we have to level up from the beginning again and again and again and again.
I think that's what's going to happen. At least for part 2.
Yeah, for part 2, certainly. Pretty much. Because then they could maybe start with something else, but I have some ideas for you a little bit later.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in a little bit here, but yeah, I totally think that at least for part 2, we'll just be learning, we'll just have like fire and the normal like basic materia spells, and then we have to level them up from scratch again.
Yeah. So many things lead to basically carrying nothing, almost nothing over, as far as we talked about now. So and with summons, it's also a little bit similar because we already got Ifrit, Shiva, Ramu, Leviathan, Bahamut, and Chocobo, Chocomog, or Chocobo and Moogle, it's called now, because we have more characters available.
Yeah.
And even those 3 DLC, but those are just bonus because they didn't exist in the original game either. So do we just reobtain them, or do they not appear anymore? So also something to keep in mind for our next segment.
Yeah, I was thinking potentially too, when you boot up the game or something like that and it reads your save file, then it actually just shows a screen and it's like you have to move all of your inventory to a storage box for later in the game. And then it just goes away. And then they don't tell you where you're going to find this stuff, but you just know that potentially you'll get what you have from the first one and the second one at some point. So I was thinking, that's why I was saying, like, if you would steal everything and it's in like a storage box in Wutai, and then at that point in the game, you access it and you can transfer things between your inventory that you currently have on your characters and the storage box. And then your summons are also in there and they're leveled up. But for part 2, you won't have them because you get different summons.
Yeah. Yeah, something like a storage box, or maybe not even a storage box, but maybe even an event that happens in the game that you retrieve something you've lost in the first game. This could also tie into story somehow, that you get certain things back that you acquired in the first, or in the second, then you acquired in the third, just not right from the beginning. Just there's something that could work in if it's relevant to the story, to the lore, to whatever.
I think that there is a way that they can actually have this one storage thing or whatever it is be consistent across all games.
Yeah.
If they're using the same environments and we go back to this later in the story, then like if we go back to Wutai or wherever it is, maybe it's just a localized thing that has your stuff stored in it with a level cap. So like you can't, like if I'm thinking about, let's say Elden Ring, I know it's not the same genre of game, but like I can go there and like I have a loadout, and if I'm overburdened, like I can't move very fast because I'm overloaded, and I have like a loading stat. So like I have to unload things into the box, but then I can go back to it and exchange things later. And weapons have a level cap, so like I have to have like 40 faith in order to have this certain staff, and there's an X there and I can't use it. So maybe everything's put in this storage area. You have access to it in different environments where it's like a computer, like the Chadley VR computer that you go up to, and everything is stored digitally there, and he can recreate copies of your stuff.
Chadley.
He can make copies of your stuff because he has access to like everything and all the data. So he's made copies of the data of those things that you had because you gave him that information through the battles, right? So like he just kind of like populates this stuff, but only at certain points in the game are you able to do that. So like everything's there, but you just can't use it at that time. Like you have to get to a certain level. You have to be at a certain point in the story when you can have access to all of your summons again, or something like that.
You just gave me a few ideas about Chadley. Because I am planning to release a video down the line about Chadley, because there's so much about him we don't know, so much mystery, so much weird stuff. And I didn't really think about his role in future games. I really need to go into it. Yeah, I need to make some notes after we finish recording this.
Because I know we didn't really put Chadley in our notes, but then that just kind of dawned on me.
Yeah.
Like, what happens if it's like a VR simulator again, but then like you can use those things in the VR simulator and take them out with you or something? He can like not 3D print them, but like, you know what I mean? It's just like, it just kind of like is populated in the world somehow, like from the system.
Yeah, or you can just at each location he appears, you can buy back one summon from the previous games. Something like that.
Like, you know how you fight Vyzz in VR, but like in the real part of the story, like, isn't he just like he's like a hologram kind of, where he's connected to all those cables and everything?
Well, he is really there in deep ground, just hooked up to his chair. Basically, he's tied to his chair. He can't get up, because otherwise he would just kill everybody. But through those cables, his the data of his whole being is being copied over to Chadley's computers, so that he is able to recreate Vyzz in virtual reality with his whole personality and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what he does to Cloud, because he's like, hey, my system's been upgraded. I can plug you into this system, and then it will reload all of your memories and your data and information, basically, of like the weapons and everything like that, like you said. And you can essentially like buy them back from him, copies of them or something like that.
Maybe. It's certainly something to pursue. It's an interesting thought. Maybe it leads nowhere, but it's certainly interesting.
All right, so moving on here, we're talking about what other possibilities are there besides a full transfer or none. And I know we talked a little bit about this previously, but that's fine. So we're going to go a little bit more in depth. So Vyzz, you can start us off here, your example.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can transfer some things and leave others out. And a good example that it's for carrying over data or progression transfer is actually found in the Trails games. So I played Trails of Cold Steel first, the first one, then the second one. So there's already transfer there. And then I played Trails in the Sky, the first chapter, and then the second chapter. Also a little bit of transfer there. And in those games, it kind of works a little bit differently. So how leveling up works is, if you're above enemy levels, I don't quite know the exact system behind it, but the stronger you are compared to the enemies, the less experience points you get. So if you're low level, you get a lot of EXP, and then if you fight the same enemies over and over again, you level up, you get less and less and less XP. So it's basically a soft cap in each location. So that's
interesting.
Yeah, so you can't really over level. This means in the first games, basically you'll reach, let's say, around level 40 or even 50 if you just keep leveling. But I don't think you can really go much over that. And then in the next game, in my case, I was leveled down a little bit, like a few levels, because it just starts at the fixed level. The next game, like around there where you finish the first one if you don't grind like hell. So there's already kind of they know where you leave off, and then they know, okay, you have those stats and this level, let's start there. So this from the level and stats it really works, and the stats also don't go into the, I don't know, millions or something. So in the first games you have like maybe 4 or 5, no, not even that, maybe 3,000 HP or something like that, and then attack power of maybe 200. Let's say, and then you start from there, and then the end of the second games in both sub-series, you are at maybe around 500 or something HP, 5,000 HP, 5,500, and maybe 4 or 5 or maybe even 600 attack.
Right.
And then the next game should start there. I personally don't know yet, because I'm not in the third Trails in the Sky game yet, or the third Trails of Cold Steel, but I really hope it's going to be like that. just to set the stage here. And the abilities, I think they did it really well because all the characters retain all abilities they've learned, or at least those that the game assumes to have learned by then, by this level cap they set for themselves for carryover. So they also have a system that each time you level up, or after some levels, you gain a new ability. So you don't learn them by using weapons or something, but by just leveling up. Very traditional. But sometimes one ability just levels up itself. Like, for example, Hurricane becomes Hurricane 2 or True Hurricane. They have both things. Either they add a 2 or pretend a True to the name, so that it just gets better because you use those abilities and you get better at them, so that those abilities level up too. That's basically the idea behind it. This could also work for a remake, actually. So you can retain the abilities, but some just level up, like they just become strong, like triple slash, quarter slash, quintuple slash. I don't know how they're called. Just something like that. But in terms of inventory, it's all gone. But it's the story also has a reason for it, that everything is gone. So you have your base weapon again, basically, or a new base weapon, and maybe a few potions or something. Like just the game gives you like a starting package, basically. But everything is reset in terms of inventory and gear.
Is this due to like it incorporating like your save data between games, or is this just like by default?
Both. I don't remember if there was a save transfer for Cold Steel, but in Trails in the Sky I was able to get the previous save, and I think what it actually transferred is what I did, like all the quests I did for certain characters, because the characters referred to previous deeds I did. So possibly that, because otherwise, I don't think I had the exact level in Trails in the Sky second chapter. Not quite sure. I should look more into it, but right now, until I finish playing all of them, I'm really, really scared to look anything up on the internet, because I could just stumble upon a spoiler somewhere. So I usually just ask a fellow community member who knows all the games and has brought me into those games in the first place. So we talk a lot about those games, and he also tries to not say anything at all about anything, even not like a reaction sometimes could throw me off and get my analysis brain going. So it's really hard for him to talk about certain things or even react or say something. But yeah, I probably should ask him a little bit what's actually behind the transfer. I should have done this before this episode, actually.
It's all good. I was just wondering, but it does make sense what you're saying for them to do that with Remake. Just you have all of your abilities.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It would make sense if you have all of your abilities, but the abilities are scaled with your stats, right?
Yeah.
And not the weapon stats? Or how much damage that you would do with those abilities depend on the weapon you have equipped as well.
No, I think the abilities have in themselves just stats, like a base attack stat or a base pressure stat or something like that. They have stats,
really?
And then your character stats just are added to it.
So, like, if I do Braver with a nail bat, like the damage that I'm doing is not different from if I use Braver with like a Buster Sword?
It is different because the strength also differs between weapons.
Yeah, so that might be a way as well where you said it's not overpowered, because yes, you have all of your abilities, but you don't have the weapons. So then and if the Buster Sword is the only one you get to keep, whether it's fully upgraded or not, maybe it's not. Maybe it's like level 1, like a basic Buster Sword, then you have all the abilities available, but you're not doing massive damage.
Yeah.
So it's not considered like OP.
Yeah, exactly. It's just balanced to the game in question, like part 2. It's just balanced in a way that you do the damage that they intend you to do, and all successive weapons are just like on the level of the Buster Sword, basically. That it feels the same as in the first game, whether upgraded or not. Just that it feels the same. That if you get the next weapon, you already have a few skill points. You can then upgrade your weapon a little bit, and then it's basically on the same level as the Buster Sword, just with a different focus, maybe focus on speed or strength or magic or whatever, so that it feels the same. And then it doesn't really matter which weapon you are using per se, but it does if one weapon has a higher strength stat. Then of course everything is stronger. But then you maybe don't have as much defense, so you take more damage. It's a trade-off that's already there in part 1. So I don't think this is actually a problem at all. It's just numbers that they have to make sure that it fits for the game, the progression, and the starting point in the next game. So yeah, as I said before, the abilities can all remain, even the limit breaks. And then you don't get all new abilities. Like, if I think we have like 7 abilities per character, and if we have 14 abilities at the end of part 2, it would probably be a little bit too much. So maybe we get 3 more or something to get to 10. But others then get upgraded. As I said before, this triple slash will be upgraded to quadruple slash. Braver is maybe super braver. I don't know. Just that some abilities got replaced by stronger versions or better versions. Because I really like the Trails approach in that regard. Otherwise, if you have too many abilities, it gets probably overwhelming, and some you might not use much, because then it's really hard to balance everything around all the abilities you have. That's also a problem, I think. It could work, of course, and some people love a huge list of abilities they can choose from.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because then like you wrote the ability list will just explode. So like you have this huge menu of abilities that you have to scroll through and decide which one that you want to use.
Yeah.
Will be really tedious.
Yeah, exactly.
If every single game you have weapons that have abilities that you unlock, and you have every single ability from every part, then... But the original was kind of like that too, because like your materia, like the whole menu system with master materia is like it had every single spell from every materia in the menu. Like
that is true.
Maybe there's a way they can do it so it's like it's better organized. You do have them all, but it's just more accessible.
Pages, like categories, like pure attack skills, then you add abilities, then you have pure support abilities, and then you just switch pages. Also, I don't know, something like that. I think it could work, but I personally think less is more, so that especially the balancing and the gameplay can be crafted in a way that all those abilities come in handy at some point. So some enemies need to be tackled with those abilities because those are more effective against those enemies. Other enemies demand for a little bit different approach, so other abilities come more useful. Stuff like that. And if you have like 14 and 21 or even 28 abilities, if we talk 4 parts and at the end, it's like, okay, this like feels a bit too overwhelming, and we have so many junk in there. Half of it is mostly not even usable, or maybe it is, but it's just too much for the average brain, I guess. But again, that's just trying to look into the future how it would feel, but it's hard to say if it's really that way. Still, the remake system, while heavily on the action side, is still kind of an ATB menu-based system.
Yeah.
So even as you said in the original, you had this huge magic list, huge. Even like at the 3 columns, and you have to scroll down. If you have master magic or even master command, you had 3 columns on the main menu, main battle menu. So maybe it could work. I just hope it's well balanced, that all the abilities have their place in the games they appear in, and we don't lose any abilities. That's why I think we should have the abilities we receive with new weapons. Let's say 6 weapons per game, as in the first one. 3 of them have new abilities. 3 of them upgrade abilities we already have. For example, Aerith's Arcane Ward is just bigger, and if you cast a spell from there, it hits 3 times instead of 2, something like that.
But then I was thinking as well, if they have introduction of some kind of a new battle system mechanic, like for example, team up attacks, then the menu is changing again.
Fair.
With even more.
Yeah, true. There are also those...
like if they decide to integrate those from intermission.
I hope so.
Which I think that they're going to do.
Yeah, certainly.
But maybe it could be an explanation why you can't use the original abilities anymore, because you have to relearn them, but as a team up attack. So it's braver, but it's called something different because it's braver mixed with like somebody else is doing the attack with you.
I think, well, in intermission, it was like this. You had Windstorm and which was the other one? Windstorm and War, something of War.
Yeah. Art of War.
Art of War, exactly. Thank you. Art of War, which Yuffie could execute herself, or when synergized with Sonon, it was synergized Art of War and synergized Windstorm. So but only those 2, not the other abilities. So I think there are only select abilities which are able to have a synchronized version, or which do have a synchronized version of them. For example, Braver probably doesn't really make sense, but maybe Infinity's End does, because it's a wind up, and Tifa sits on the blade, and then instead of hitting the enemy, he chucks Tifa into the air, hits the enemy, and Tifa then strikes down as well. Something like that. Just maybe it doesn't really work like that, but I can see that certain abilities that receive a synergized version, but that is not really part of the weapon system, because you still need to learn those abilities. It's just in a synergized mode, you have the synergized version of it. You only needed to learn it to access it. Synergized, non-synergized. So I think this works perfectly well beside each other. Unless they change it again, of course, as you said.
Well, they might not have that ability until later when you encounter Yuffie, and then she like she trains you or something. You get that because that was her thing with
that's
Sonon.
A good idea, yeah. That she's the one who introduces synergized attacks with all the others, because Cloud, Tifa, Barret, Aerith, and Red 13 didn't do that before. They only attacked on their own, and then Yuffie comes along and then brings this into the team. This would actually be pretty awesome, because then she's not just this random girl who gets into the party and we just take her with us because it's a JRPG, but she actually has something to contribute to the group. She can maybe she even appears with somebody else and fights against us with some other guy or gal she recruited on the way, and then uses synergized attacks, and then we ask her, wait, what did you do that? Oh, that's pretty cool. You don't know that? I'll teach you. And this is her way to get into the group to later then steal the materia. Like contribute something so they want her to stick around and get her trust or earn her trust. But then, Wutai comes and she betrays us all. But that's actually a really good thought. I haven't thought about that.
And then for the abilities and limit breaks, I thought maybe Chadley could give us like a bracelet or something like that so that we can use them because they are in the system that he uses or something like that, like uploads them there.
Oh, you mean that we lose some, but he gives us some back, basically?
Yeah, like he might be like, hey, I've, found, I was able to upload the data for a previous ability or battle mechanic. But it's like it happens throughout the story. It's not like you just get all of them at the beginning. Kind of like how, what's his name? Ignis will say like, I've come up with a new recipe. Oh, yeah. But like it's a certain time. Like it's not like all the time.
Yeah.
But it's a bracelet or some kind of a wearable thing that gives you
an additional ability.
It enables you to be able to do those. I don't know.
Or maybe weapons only provide new abilities, but Chadley is able to upgrade them. Like we use them like this. There are certain character-based VR missions where we need to do something with this specific ability, and then if we accomplish
like
this
VR
mission,
simulation.
then this ability is upgraded to like True Braver or something like that.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
Also something to think about. Pretty cool. Chadley is very useful if you think about it.
Yep.
And regarding limit breaks, I thought about this not too long ago. In the first game, we acquired 2 limit breaks. One is default, and we learn a second one. In the original game, we had 4 levels, 4 limit break levels, and on each level, besides the last one, we had 2 limit breaks. So what if in each part we learn 2 more, or maybe the last part just 1 more, like the ultimate one?
Yeah.
The only thing that speaks against it is Barrett already learned his ultimate, the catastrophe. Now, maybe it can learn different ones, like the mind blow where he does MP damage still works because this is completely beside all his like strength. Doesn't really account anything besides just okay, now the enemy has less MP. This works on any level. So he could even learn this in part 3 basically. But he should in part 2 because I think it was the first on level 2. Is level 2 limit break the first one? Was it, I think? Yeah, but then they just need to create new ones for Barrett at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they could change his current limit breaks that currently exist and just create a new one, give it a new name. Maybe it's a different take on a pre-existing one.
Yeah, but then they need to change something he already learned, like basically rewrite his memory. Like, oh, I forgot about catastrophe, but now I know. What was his second one? I don't remember. I'm bad at this. But yeah, just his normal second limit break. Yeah.
But in remake hasn't. I mean, remake is different than the OG.
Yeah.
So yes, you might have learned, a different his different limit break like that you learn at that point in the game. It's just there's a bunch that he hasn't had yet. So what I meant was they could take one of the ones that he hasn't had yet, modify it, and just give it a different name because catastrophe's already been used as his final one.
Yeah. Well, he can just learn a completely different one, which is extremely badass, like his railgun in Advent Children or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe they come up with a completely different, like a new one with a different name or...
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that too because I did look at the limit break list and I was like, okay, so it looks like I would say 2 new ones for each part. Yeah. But the last one would have maybe the one ultimate one because there's one left.
Yeah, because you already have 6, and then you start the last part. Exactly, yeah. Then you start the last part with all those which came before, and then you only learn 1. And maybe you even have to go through a special character quest to learn this, not just win in the battle square or defeat this enemy, but actually, idea. In the original, Cloud tells all the others to go back to their families or loved ones to really think about, do I want this, like get to their own resolution, make their own resolution to keep going and only come back when they really want to save the world, whatever you. And this could be the part where all of them have to basically have their final character quest where they get their final limit break. And Cloud and Tifa have also to go through some last, I don't know, bonding quest. I don't know, and or maybe she wants to go to Sangan and Cloud has nowhere to go, and she just tags along, and Sangan teaches her that, and then at the same time something else happens, and Cloud learns his ultimate. I don't know, something like that. I really love that special character quests where you learn ultimates.
Maybe there's a secret part in her book or some chapter missing, like a missing chapter that she gets from her. Remember the books?
Yeah, exactly. The
She
books,
learned from
the stances
Zangen,
and the techniques, yeah.
from Trace of Two Pass or whatever.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
they go
exactly.
into detail about, right? Because didn't hers get destroyed or something like that? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, something to do with that.
I think it did, and then she received the one from this other guy whose name I forgot. The crappy one.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
basically betrayed her a little bit.
But maybe there's like a long lost chapter that she goes and finds somewhere. I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah,
but yeah, that totally makes sense. That would be awesome.
Or just
But
learns it by fighting Zangan. Like that, it's nothing you can learn from a technique book. You need to experience it. Like learn it through hardship. Learn it through training. I don't know. Just her final. Yeah, it's called Final Heaven.
Mm-hmm.
She needs to defeat her master, and then she learns it. And she only defeats it with her whole body and ki completely in tune. And this final strike, the final heaven strike, defeats then Zangan, and she learns her final limit break, something like that. I'd really love that.
That would be cool if he was actually in the game. I was thinking if they aren't going to put him in, you know what I mean? But if they do, that would be cool.
Yeah, I think they planned it because there is artwork of Zangan.
Yeah.
So I really, really hope that he will get some screen time in some parts.
And also the limit breaks that we've been talking about as well. It's just assuming that there's going to be 4 parts.
Yeah, of course. Maybe there's three, and they do something completely different. Yeah,
exactly. Like 2 per part, and then the last one you get 1. But anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So, shall we talk about summons and the materia again? Although I think I'll just go with the level level thing first, because we already talked about this a little bit, and you already revealed it a little bit, but since we reached level 50, and if we want to keep going, we'll, depending on how many parts there will be, we'll reach level 150 or even 200 at the end, if they keep this pace going. If, that is. And if they also keep the stats, and we already have 9,999 HP level cap and 999 MP, then what about the last? Are we then almost have 1 million HP or something? Yeah, it's really hard to predict, but it doesn't really feel right if the stats just keep rising and keep rising. They could do something like this, but yeah, maybe not. Maybe this level 50 is just a one-off because it worked for this game. Because, and here's my approach, if we assume 4 games, part 1 is actually just a prologue to the trilogy, and the trilogy recounting the new reality, the unknown journey. Yes.
I wrote yes in bold letters.
Exactly.
Yes. I had this exact thought. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, good. We're on the same page. I love that. So basically, the first game had its own encapsulated balancing. It's a start, middle, and end. Balancing stops there, and gameplay is just isolated in this game. And now, all the other parts, whether there are 2 or 3 or more, I don't really know and care right now, but they now have or are able to like create a balancing system, a whole gameplay and progression system over the rest of the games. So that they already know how everything works, how all the progression transfer between part 2, 3, or even 4 works, as everything has been worked out. So that now you basically lose everything because of the singularity, what I talked about before. And then we start anew, and then we just keep getting new stuff, keep progressing. Yeah, actually progressing through the rest of the story as if we were playing the original game and just swapping discs.
You just plopped in the disc. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
I was like, that just makes sense.
Yeah. To me, that also makes the most sense. And then, if they... Thing is, maybe the next part isn't too crazy. Like maybe we're also already reset to maybe 200 or 400 HP. Maybe it would feel weird, but it could work if it's well explained. Because
Yes,
otherwise
exactly.
the numbers would explode. It could work, but let's just assume numbers get reset, levels get reset, everything gets reset.
See,
yes,
I have an explanation for why clouds would be reset, but like then I can't really think of a reason for the other party members. Like that's my problem, because Cloud is obviously having like mental issues, right?
Yeah.
And with the flashback happening, potentially experiencing that again, he has these mind issues where it's like that could actually cause him to
revert, basically.
To revert, yeah.
Okay.
So like, okay, he's reset, but then what about the rest of them?
Yeah.
Because they don't have that problem. So so like that's my biggest issue. If they can explain it narratively.
Yeah, for sure. But I think the approach of the singularity and switching from memory to new reality, I think this is what works best for resetting everything for all characters. Because you can just say magic and everything is good, basically. And then they can even end at, well, it really depends. You can end at level 99 at the end of the last part, and at 9,999 HP, but then there would be so little progress in one game. So, for example, only until like around 3,500 HP, and they need to work with soft caps that you can't. Like in the Trails games, you will get you will receive less and less and less EXP. That at some point you just can't level up more.
You just can't. Yeah. And maybe the level cap isn't 100. Maybe it's like 25, so it's 75. But the amount of experience that you need obviously is increasing.
Yeah.
Over time, because you need more and more and more and more and more to get higher level. But like you said, you don't get as much from the enemies either. So it makes sense. Like if they do what you said Trails does.
Yeah. And if we expect 4 parts, then we have 3 parts where this all takes place, meaning we have soft cap at level 33, and then 66, and then 99.
Yeah.
That it's without cheating, it's impossible to exceed level 33, but you don't need to get as far. You can end at level 30 and it's fine. Maybe with HP, it's a little bit different. Maybe the first one ends with also a HP cap of 10,000 minus 1. Because of the HP plus materia and stuff like that, it's probably hard to make a soft cap. Or they could make a soft cap, and you could, if you're able with the materia, to go over 10,000, which is fine. Because in Crisis Core, for example, the hard cap was at 99,000 whatever. So it was very high, but you were only able to get as high if you equipped multiple extremely high level HP plus materia and stuff with fusion with the fusion system. I think at one point I had like 75,000 HP or something like that. It is possible. So I think soft cap really works, because then you don't feel like they prevent you from going over this very arbitrary and specific cap or line or limit. You just can't get any further because, well, everything is too easy for you. All the monsters are so weak and you're pretty much strong. You don't really get any experience. It's like if you do the same thing over and over again, at some point, it's just you can do it in your sleep. It doesn't bring you forward. You need to do new stuff. You need to find new obstacles, new things to overcome, new challenges to develop yourself further and gain more experience. It's basically the same here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. People would like that, I think. I think people would be upset because it changes the grinding formula that Final Fantasy games have had, where you can just like continuously farm like one area because these specific enemies give so much XP.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there will be uproar because it's not exactly like before, and I want to grind. I want to be OP. Blah blah blah.
Like even
Yes.
Remake Part 1, like you could only grind so much.
Yeah,
right?
the soft cap was basically at some point the monsters just weren't there anymore. I think in some areas they just didn't pop up. You beat them, and if you backtrack, they're not there anymore. I think they are in, or some at least are in the drum, like certain.
Okay. Yeah.
Not the fail experience. The unknown entities, they roam again, and maybe some bloodhounds. But all those specific entities and enemies are not there anymore. Like the moth unit and the sledgeworm, they're all gone. But those normal ones, the bloodhounds and the unknown entities, I think they still roam, because I once went back because it asks you, do you really want to continue to want to enter the elevator because we can't return? Then I thought, okay, I'll try to see what is actually there. Is there a point in going back? And it wasn't, because you can just open chests you haven't before and maybe battle a few enemies, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's like at the end of a side quest, it's like, do you want to return to the side quest person? And I would be like, no. And then I'd have to walk back. But then when you're walking back, like after you've already killed all the enemies there, there aren't any more, I don't think.
Exactly.
I don't think they repopulate.
Yeah. Well, in the Telica factory, I think a few do respawn. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was in the factory multiple times and they have the same enemies there, but it's only certain areas.
Yeah. But it's not as prevalent as in the original game, of course, because we don't have random encounters anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So for that, grinding wasn't really that possible anyway. Grinding was a thing in VR, of course. In VR, you could grind away, and in the Colosseum. I think that's where you were able to grind. Or? I don't think so. You were able to grind materia, but I don't think you got experience points, or did you? I don't actually remember.
I don't remember if you get experience points. You definitely get AP.
I think you do, because in intermission I did grind in the VR. In the simulator at the beginning of chapter 2. I did grind there and reach level 50 and then finished leveling the materials. Yes, you can in VR. You can. So if there's no VR in the subsequent parts, then I guess no grinding. Unless they all respawn if you're far away enough and then you return. And you can grind. But then if there's no soft cap, if the experience points remain the same all the way through from each enemy, then they need to introduce hard caps. And hard caps are usually best for 50 or 99 or 999, those things, which we expect from Final Fantasy, especially 7. But yeah, I can see many things happening here, or many things coming for future parts. Some unorthodox, like I explained with the Trails approach, or just higher. Well, it is possible, I think, if they really want to go off the rails with the numbers and convey to us that we are so extremely powerful by the end. At the end of part 2, it's 9,999 again. Then 1 digit more at the end of part 3, and then 1 digit more at the end of part 4. Then we're really, really, really high. It would be kind of insane, but they could. Otherwise, they would maybe cap at 20,000 or 50,000 HP at the end of part 3, and the part 4 would then be 100,000 minus 1.
Yeah, but we need that, because then if we're fighting the weapons at the end, like...
Oh, right.
We're gonna need that much damage, man. Like, come on. Like,
probably.
I feel like they're gonna be huge, and they're gonna have huge HP pools and do huge, massive amount of damage.
Yeah.
So it would make sense.
Yeah. Damage output I can see. For example, in Final Fantasy 13, the HP cap was
just about to say that.
Yeah, was at 5 digits, but the damage cap was actually at 6 digits, because there were some attacks that just ignored everything, and you were able to actually deal 1 million damage in one hit if you wanted to. And you needed to do that in order to defeat one of the long GUIs in with
Yeah.
5 stars.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
It can be done.
it can be done. But there are different approaches, and I personally don't really mind which one. It just needs to work. And I really, really hope they spread the progression over the remaining games. That everything transfers, so that we even are able to transfer materia. And this is also the next point: solutions for materia. I think I'll do summons first because this is much easier. I think there are only 2 versions we can, which is because the singularity resets everything. Then we just need to reobtain all of them. For example, Chocobo and Moogle again at the farm, Shiva again in Junon, just as we did in the original game. Basically, almost the same actually. Just maybe distributed a little bit better, so that each game has around the same amount of summons, and Bahamut again in the next one, and then Neo Bahamut, and then Bahamut Zero in the last one. Given we have 4 parts, yeah, that's always what needs to happen, because otherwise, if there are only 3 parts in total, we have 2 parts to go, and then everything falls flat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I think reobtaining them and then obtaining new ones should work, because not having Ifrit and Shiva and the others at all in subsequent parts would feel weird, especially if we're able to carry everything over. Because in the end, I do want to have all of them summons.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
You're thinking of reobtaining all of them from their original locations in part 2 to 4?
Yes, exactly. Because in the original game, the first summon we were able to obtain is Chocomog, which you can get by telling the birds to dance for you, the chocobos in the ranch, in the chocobo form. And this is basically the next location after Calm. And getting the first summon there would make sense, in my opinion. And then the next one is at Junon. We get Shiva from Priscilla. We get Ifrit on the Junon ship, cargo ship, after the fight against Genova. And Titan in the busted reactor in Gongaga, which would be a new one. Before that, Ramu again in a Gold Saucer before the Chocobo races. And I think Leviathan in Wutai, but if we say 4 parts and part 2 ends at Nibelheim, no Leviathan in the next part, and no Bahamut either, which would be a shame. So I think Bahamut should be switched around a little bit. But yeah, it's there are so many variables, but I think the main takeaway is let us reobtain all of those, and then just let us carry them over to all the other parts. I think that would be the best solution.
You're using the singularity
as the reason that they're gone.
And it could be a possibility. Listen, we got those. Didn't we get those? Oh, we picked some of them up though. Because I'm like, didn't we get them from the VR? Because that would make sense, because they weren't even real. Potentially, they were just from the VR system. So they're like copies of the real ones in the real world, because Chadley has the data. So
exactly.
But we did actually pick some of them up in the real world, like on the ground.
Chocobo Moogle in Chapter 6 in the vent, and Ifrit we received from Jesse at the end of Chapter 3, it was the end of Chapter 3. I think the other ones were VR missions, pretty sure.
That would make sense.
But if you consider the whole first part happening in memories, in the planet's memories, then all of them are memories, whether crafted by Chadley or obtained anywhere. It's just the memory of those, so it doesn't really matter either way, in my opinion. But now,
that's true.
We're in the rewritten timeline, the new reality as it's being written. There are 2 things to look about it. Either reality is rewritten completely, as I suggested in game analysis number 24 about Aerith. So basically, also the physical reality is completely rewritten. Then we just go through it, or, which probably makes more sense, that the actual reality is 7 seconds before the end, which is where Sephiroth hails from and goes back to change memories. But after the singularity, everything from there up to 7 seconds until the planet's demise, where the actual present resides. There's, as you said before, a ripple effect going through the memories, changing the memories, like according to how we interact now with the world and what Cloud and the others do, which basically sets the new reality into stone. And then when we reach the 7 seconds until the end, it changes the reality to according to what we did before, what we did differently before, which changes the starting point for Sephiroth at the end of the world, which allows him to then survive or do whatever he wants to do, then to not fade away with the planet, which is doomed to die anyway, without him being able to do anything about it. So yeah, that's basically the thing. And this ripple effect is we playing through the game again, well, not quite again, but we play through the original chain of events. But I think all those will differ more and more and more. The main events will still be there.
Mm-hmm.
The main order, or the order of the events, will still be there. But the details will differ more and more and more until the end, where it completely goes off the rails, probably.
So are there any summons that we don't get? Like, let's say at the story, I forget when we pick them up in the original game. So, like, let's say the beginning of Part 2 in Remake, are we just going to be picking up the summons that we already had from Part 1? Let's say, like you said, everything's rewritten and that's the reason why they're all gone. Because then there's a little bit of excitement taken away because we don't have any summons in Part 2 that we didn't have in Part 1. So it's a little bit disappointing. So are there any that from, like, let's say we're going up until, what did you say it was the end of Part 2? You said it was?
Nibelheim.
Yes.
So there are 3, actually. Well, 2.5, because Ramu we got in intermission, but not for the main party. So Ramu would be new to Cloud and the others, and Titan would be completely new, and Odin would be completely new.
Okay, so that makes sense then. Because I was just thinking, like, it would be disappointing because then we would we're picking up ones that we already have that we already used.
Yeah. But I think it makes sense to pick up the elemental ones first, that we have all the elements or most of the elements.
Absolutely.
And then when we pick up Titan, well, maybe we get the earth material before, I don't know. But I really hope that the earth element will be a thing going forward.
Yeah. That would make sense. And then also, they could just do DLC summons like they did do with Remake Part 1, where we had like
for
the
sure,
Cactuar and
like
the other summons. It was
Carbuncle and Chocobo.
Yeah. So, that keeps it exciting as well because we just have some that weren't even in the original game that they just made and gave us. So that would be, well, we didn't get them unless you pre-ordered, I think, or you could actually purchase them later. But
you could purchase them,
yeah. So that's an idea as well, just to keep it like fresh or something like that.
Yeah. Tomberry, for example, because he was a summon in Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, that's another thing that I was going to say. Would they not just create like a new summon, or they would just use summons from across the series, basically, that we normally wouldn't have?
Well, I'm pretty sure they will recreate all the summons from the original game, which are, I think, 16, if I remember correctly, and 16 are plenty. And then the rest should be DLC, like Tonberry, or what else would be there. From top of my head, it's hard to just recount all the Final Fantasies and which ones would make the most sense. But I can see a few of them, or just completely new ones that haven't existed before. Maybe we can summon Gilgamesh or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
that would be awesome, actually.
Let's say up until the point that we get the first summon from Part 2, though, like they could have the DLC just like Part 1, where you can unlock summoning right from the beginning if you have like Chocobo or you have like Carbuncle, then you can do that. But if you don't have those, you don't get that ability until the first summon materia that you actually receive, which is why the menu pops up and everything. Exactly. So it could just be similar, where you have some that you can use from the beginning, maybe DLC or something like that, so that you have some, but it's not replacing like the main ones that you get in throughout the story, basically.
Yeah, that's. I think we're on the same page there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think summons is pretty easy to handle. I hope they do it this way. But it's the elemental materia. Normal materia is not that much of an issue, but elemental materia, the thing is, we already leveled them up to the Ga spell, to the Ga level, Ran Ga. And, well, since the singularity happened, everything is new now. Learning everything from the beginning, well, it's a little bit tedious, but it makes sense. It's fine. But then part 3, and if there is a part 4, then again learn Fire, Fyra, Fyraga, and Blizzaga again and again and again. Probably not. So I came up with 2 ideas. The first one I already had in 2019, which is that back then I expected 3 parts. So the first part had just Fire, Fyra, Fyraga. And the other one the other way around. You had Fire 1, 2, 3, just in the original game. And then part 2 had the Fyra materia instead of Fire, or Blizzara, or Thundara materia. 1, 2, 3 to 3 levels, but just at a higher level spell. Sense. And then in the last one, the Fyraga and Blizzaga and Eroga materia, level 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work because we already got the round Ga spells, so it could be like just the Fire 2 materia, or like the Fire, I don't know, just like a Fire Beta materia or something, with a Fyra Beta and Fyraga Beta and Gamma. I don't know, just something that tells us, okay, it's the next iteration. But I think this feels a little bit weird. So what could work is higher level spells like Ja and Za, and those already have precedence. For example, in Final Fantasy VIII, there's a Guardian Force called the Diablos, and when you fight against him, he casts Gravitas, I think it's called, the spell, gravitation spell, the percentage damage. But he can also cast it onto all of the characters simultaneously, like an area of effect version, which is called Gravija. And the Za spells make their appearance in Kingdom Hearts. For example, Mickey once casts Stop Za. Maybe a minor spoiler, but you don't really know where and how, and it doesn't really matter. But it's like a super stop spell. And in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, Fragmentary Passage 2.8, however this name is called, this is the most egregious title ever. There, and in Kingdom Hearts 3, if you can, by comboing against enemies, you can, and if you don't only use attacks, but like a water spell or something, then when you combo enough, you get special abilities that you can like execute by pressing triangle. And if you cast water, then you have Water Za, for example. It's just a huge mega water explosion as a finishing attack, basically. But you need to build it up with combos. So this is also a possibility that, let's say in part 2, it's Ra-Ga, normally, as in part 1, just a repeat. And then in part 3, we already start with Ga spells, and then learn the Ja spell within the same materia. We could just take this master materia, which then gets an additional star for the Ja spell. And then in the last part, if there are 4, Za spell. Fyraza or Blizzaza, whatever. Maybe it gets a little bit clowny, clown-worldy, because at some point it's just, okay, what suffix are we using next?
Yeah.
But I think this is something they could do, because then we can take the whole leveled up materia and still use it, but also level it up again, or even further. So that's my thinking, that that this way we can carry over elemental materia even if it's maxed out.
Yeah. Yeah, do you think that it's going to be in part 2 that we're just going to get fire?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Part 2 is a complete reset. This is my prediction. Complete reset. Maybe not the base weapons, of course. Maybe those are still, maybe as I talked before, leveled up or something. But otherwise, it's a complete reset. But then, since it's the new reality, the unknown journey, this unknown journey should be uninterrupted until the end. So progression transfer should happen, in my opinion, for everything.
So I have an idea as well. So I'm thinking potentially maybe in part 3, we get access to, it's like a materia system, kind of like what Scarlet had in the lab, where she was like supercharging materia. So maybe what we do is we combine materias together to give us more powerful materia. So it's like you have FFVIIR and 2 FFVIIRas to make a FFVIIRaga or something like that, or 2, like you fuse them together to make them more powerful. Now I don't know if it would look like a supercharged materia attack. Does that make sense? Because there was that story arc where, like, we had an episode intermission where Yuffie was there to find the ultimate materia, or the, what did she call it?
Ultimate materia, yeah.
Was it? Yeah. And then she gets to the lab and they're like testing a materia and they're like trying to supercharge it or like do something to it to like
combine
energize it. Yeah. So maybe she's successful at doing that and she somehow either Chadley finds it and has that technology, so then you have access to it, and then you can add the materia together, and you need a certain amount of FFVIIRas to make 1 FFVIIRaga. Maybe you need 3 FFVIIRas, or maybe you need 3 FFVIIRagas to make 1 FFVIIRaza.
For example, yeah.
Something like that, where you're combining them together. What game did I play? I'm pretty sure I played a Final Fantasy game that did this.
Crisis Core had materia fusion. But usually you didn't. I think you could also gain more powerful materia, but mostly by combining, you like powered up or gave additional stats or higher stats to the materia or an additional effect. For example, to level up the HP materia to give you plus 20,000 or something, you had to just fuse and fuse.
But it would tell you like the results of like, if you did combine this with this one, this is what the results would be. Is it Lightning Returns? It's not. It might be Lightning Returns, but it's not materia. It's
accessories. Yeah, you can combine accessories, I think. Or weapons.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, could be. Yeah,
but it's not materia. But it could work because it's part of the story.
Yeah.
And then it's a new system, so it's more.
Yeah, it's possible because Crisis Core did that. So it's entirely possible that Chadley invents, quote unquote, something new, but he already knew that because he knows what happened.
Or he accesses the data in the system from Deep Ground that Scarlet is.
Or that, for the deep combination.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Anyway, that's my idea, is that you fuse them together like materia fusion, and then you get the higher level powered materia.
Also, again, Kingdom Hearts, I think Birth by Sleep did it. Was it only Birth by Sleep? Or I think it was only Birth by Sleep where it could fuse magic, because then you had commands you needed to slot into your menu, and then during gameplay you executed only those attacks or those spells or commands within the list, and they all had a cooldown. So meaning those were items, basically. Just the spells and the commands were items, so to speak, or just a thing, an object, not like materia.
But that's like in Final Fantasy VIII, because it's the draw system, so you draw the spells from the enemies, right? And it's a consumable though. Yeah,
it's a consumable, but in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, it's not a consumable. It's equipable.
Oh,
it's like a materia, but it's just one thing that has this effect, and it's done. But you can combine them. You can combine 2 and then add a third, just an item or a shard or something, and then you can combine them. And for example, you have FFVIIR or FFVIIRagas or separate commands, And fusing two fires yields a Fyra, using two fires yields a Fyraga, and using two Fyragas yields a dark Fyraga, for example. Like just a higher tier of things. Or triple Fyraga is also a possibility. There are a few of those. This is also something I could see, not necessarily just higher tiers like Ja and Za, but actually a completely new, like this triple Fyraga or this dark Fyraga or a super Fyraga or
interesting
something like that with fusing them.
And then it's kind of like a crafting system because maybe it'll tell you like which ones you need to create this.
Oh, hopefully, yeah.
It's a materia crafting system, which would be super cool.
Yeah, certainly.
And they could use it narratively to make it make sense, like, you know, like explain it so that it makes sense in the story and not just something that's like tacked on or whatever that don't make sense. But I think this is a lot more interesting than, okay, part 2, you get Fyra, and Fyraga, and then part 3 you start with fire. Like it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah, that's true.
Because how are they gonna forget everything again in part 3? Like I don't see that happening.
No.
Like you said, it's probably gonna be progression the whole time. So this would be like a new system that would keep it fresh. And give us new materia. These are supercharged materia. So maybe there's materia that we haven't even seen in any of the games before because we don't have master materia. Well, we didn't in Remake Part 1. They didn't have babies once we leveled them up.
Unfortunately, yeah.
You know, and we couldn't put them all together as like one materia. So, which I remember saying before that I was a little bit disappointed in that because I actually loved that part because I was like so OP. I had every single spell in like one materia.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? But then the whole upgrade system of the weapons really kind of like got rid of that because because you had so many slots that you could have a multitude of different materia equipped, but the original didn't have a weapon upgrade system. So it helped with the limitations of the materia slots of the weapons by having the master materia, because then you only need like one master magic materia with every single spell in it. So it only took one slot.
Yeah.
So maybe the master materias will not be making a comeback because of the level upgrading system with the weapons, but this could be a way for them to kind of give us something similar to that, where the materia is just like super powered.
Also not the upgrade system, the balancing in general, because Remake has a hard mode, and the more restricted you are, the harder it gets. So you can't just go absolutely crazy with all those material combinations because you only have one magnify material and you only have 2 elemental materia. So we can't just make all your 3 characters immune or even absorb ice against Shiva, for example, because then Shiva would just be a choke.
I wish they all had a magnify. Well, I really missed
that. Well,
that's
fair, yeah. But yeah, it's a balancing issue, I think.
Especially too if we have more members of the party. So then we're only going to have 2.
Well,
let's say we have 2 magnify, then okay, if there's only 3 active party members in a battle at a time, then
we
works. Can't like how are you're going to have to change your materia like for each.
Well, it also depends if they make use of.
You could do a loadout.
Yeah, loadout, or make use of a system of a party switch or a character switch system like in Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, I would like that.
Because I'd really love that, but this means when you have 8 or 9 characters, all of them need to be equipped fully, so that you can just switch around, and then you need a lot of materia.
Yeah, that's the problem too, because if you have like Magnify on Aerith and you swap her out for somebody else like Yuffie or something like that, and she doesn't have it on her, so you can't like go into the menu and swap the materia out.
Yeah.
Maybe you can. Maybe it's a loadout, so you can have that loadout loaded to Yuffie, so when she comes in, she has the materia that Aerith had because they like swapped it. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of ways to be able to do that.
Problem is they probably don't have the same amount of slots in weapon and armor. And then some materia just get lost, basically. Or some slots are then empty because Aerith had only 3 in her weapon, but Yuffie has 5, so 2 are empty. So,
but that's okay. It's part of the strategy then, right? Like you have to make sure that you have.
Yeah, but still, you don't really see it. You'd need to see what you get after the switch, and in the heat of the battle, you don't want to look. Oh, okay, Yuffie would lose those 2 material because she doesn't have enough slots in the armor, but then 2 slots would be wasted in the armor because in the weapon because she has 2 more than Aerith, and I think this would feel weird. So, in my opinion, gameplay wise, so that it really makes sense and also fun, you can equip all the characters in the menu. You can prepare everything because this is the point of such a system, that you prepare everything in the menu and then go into the fight and everything is prepared, basically. So
yeah, so if you swap characters, it's what you did in the menu.
Yeah, exactly. You have this character with this equipment, with this material loadout from the menu, and you know what you get because you did it before.
Yeah, but like if you only have 2 magnify, then that's
then
it.
It's a problem.
Like if you put Yuffie in there, she doesn't have a magnify because you only have 2. Then you have to strategize though and realize that okay, this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Which makes the strategy more in depth, which is what I like.
Well, they can still limit the amount of certain material, the number of certain material, the strong ones, so that you can only have 3. So if you have 5 characters, 3 of them can have them. If the 3 of them are in the active party, fine. If you swap them out, okay, well, bad luck. Then you need to do with the other material loadout. If they create a swapping system. If not, then it doesn't really matter, because then after the fight you can go into the menu and just quick swap everything. At least that's what I hope they will implement, because the part 1 didn't have it. You had to manually switch every single piece of material between the characters, which was a chore.
But it could be that they have different profiles. So you're like, okay, so I want to set up my backup team to focus on healing. So it's like a preset based on your inventory of material that you have. So you're not like stuck in a menu literally specifically assigning each one of the material to each one of the party members. You can be like, okay, I want this set up for like damage or offensive or defense or like each specific character. So then when they come in, they can.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like it's set loadouts, but I hope they also implement a save a save. Like that you can save individual loadouts. You have set a Barrett this way. Save this configuration with this weapon, this armor, and those materials. And then you can just do something else. And then switch back to that. So so that you have the loadouts. But still would have a few drawbacks, but still it could work better probably.
Yeah. But I was just saying, if people didn't want to spend the time to be doing that, then you can just go, which I think Remake already has something like that. It's like prefer not damage, but like you can optimize your loadout or something like that. So it looks at everything you have.
Not material. This was for the upgrade system, the weapon upgrade system. You can automatically distribute SP when you get them. So we can set it to auto, prefer attack, prefer defense, or balanced.
Well, something like that, but for materia would be nice.
Yeah. It's probably extremely complicated to create or code an algorithm that is satisfactory for the player. And because there are so many variables, you can have an infinite amount of permutations in your inventory for the materia. So like if you say prefer healing, you can just fill, and you have like 7 healing materia, then it just throws in all the heal materia, which probably wouldn't make sense. So only 1. And then
or support is what I meant. Like it would be support, focus on support, and then it would have defense, debuffs, buffs, and healing materia populated for that character.
But then does the healing material receive the magnify materia or not? Then if it does, and you say, no, I don't want that, then you need to go in and manually adjust everything anyway. So I'm not quite sure if this would actually work well, because I'm pretty sure that everybody, even if it says, if they say, okay, do this, prefer this, but then it's looks like something you don't personally want, or it doesn't still fit, and then you need to adjust things. I don't know if that's actually helpful. Maybe they can do something like this with AI. machine learning and like train the automatic or the optimizer before shipping the game internally by equipping this and say, okay, I want this, and then say, okay, now you did this wrong. This is better, and then the AI knows. All right, so if he asks this and I have all those material available, this setup is better. And then train it. Maybe it even keeps training when you play the game or something like that, because AI is all the rage nowadays everywhere, especially on the Microsoft side. So that's the only thing I could see, that they implement some sort of machine learning materia equipment optimizer or something like that.
I was just talking about like the other party members that aren't in your main three parties.
Yeah.
So basically it would optimize your materia placement, whatever's left in your inventory that isn't being used by the three main party members that you actually have assigned that will be in the battle when you initially go into a battle when you're fighting. In the original, it would be like that, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm starting a battle, and it would have the three primary members. But now it's an action game, so it's different. But it's similar in that, well, okay, you get into a battle, if that's your main party members, that's who's there. But then I just mean like it's optimizing whatever's left in your inventory. So then if you tag out and Yuffie comes in, it's like a set of spells that's been assigned by the optimizer that is based on your inventory. Unused materia that's left in your inventory, potentially.
I see.
But anyway, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, definitely.
Who knows? Yeah. But I'm just thinking to, gameplay improvements that they can make potentially, because some people I think were complaining like it was too chaotic. They couldn't control what each person was doing. They rather not control them. So they wanted to have an optimized like AI for the party members when you're not physically controlling them. And they wanted them to do like better things, I guess, or something like that. Like actually, I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, kind of went on a tangent here, but
that's fine. That's what we do best. Yeah, but I think we've exhausted solutions for materia. If you have any more ideas, dear listener, just comment and do what you need to do to reach us. We're open to more suggestions. Gear, I think we already talked a lot about gear, but I want to brush one more topic, and that's slots. Like in the first game, part 1, we have 6 slots and 3 linked slot pairs if all weapons are upgraded. So this is already pretty good, and starting with that in the next part would be almost a little bit OP. And that's also another reason why, okay, reset everything, only leave the Buster Sword, probably with only 2 linked slots again. And then just upgrade it. And if they really do this, what I hope they do, part 2, 3, and maybe 4 has one overarching progression and everything carries over, then it's easy to not have us obtain too many slots for each weapon, so that they're not overpowered when the subsequent part starts. Maybe a little bit, but then we get the new weapon and can already upgrade this weapon a little bit and get maybe 1-2 slots, and then it's almost similar. Or maybe even not have all weapons be able to acquire all 6 slots, or maybe later 8, so that some weapons are really, really strong, but have max 4 slots, or maybe even only 3 slots, but they're really strong. So you need to say, okay, do I need the materia or do I need the strength? Or one has a really, really good defense stat, but also maybe only 4 individual slots, no linked at all. So that you need to decide how you want to play. Some enemies probably don't need the crazy materia combinations, but maybe higher stats. But on the other hand, if it's an action game, skill is also involved, so stats don't make too much of a difference if you're really good. So materia is the way to go. So it's probably not a good idea to restrict materia slots. It's hard to say, but it's something to consider, especially for for armor, because they are not upgradable, at least not yet, and they stopped with 4 slots. And in subsequent parts, I hope they have maybe part 2 has also 4 slots max, part 3 then has 6 slots max, and part 4 has 8 slots max. If there are 4, if there are 3, it's easier. But just the amount of slots and linked slots should also be considered for progression. So that the strongest accessories and armor are not too OP when the next part starts and you can carry everything over.
Yeah.
So that the most of them get maybe obsolete and you can sell them if you want to get more money, more gil if you need them. If you don't, you just retain them. I don't know. Something like that. Because stats is much easier to handle. And that the max stats for the armor is just basically the baseline for this weaker armor in the next game.
This is a difficult one.
I think,
because if we're limiting the number of materia slots that are unlockable in the upgrade system, then we're also making it very difficult to choose like what materia we're going to use because we're limited. We can't equip as many. Yes. But we have more party members.
That's also true, yeah.
So that might help with not having 6 at the end of part 2 in the Buster Sword.
Yeah.
Or something, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I understand what you're saying, because then it can't be too OP. So then when we start part 3, we have 6 materia slots, and then it upgrades to like 10, and then we're like, it's too much.
It is too much. I think 8 is pretty good for the end, for the last part.
Yeah, exactly. But since we have more party members, they can hold more materia.
But then we need to swap the character swap system.
We need a character swap system. Yes. Exactly. Because then, like, if we use Aerith, we're using abilities. We're summoning with Aerith. The summon stays there. Then you leave. Or I guess they all have a summon in the weapon.
Yeah, but they all have a summon, yeah.
Yeah, so let's say you use her and you heal everybody. And then we go magnify haste. And then we tag her out and get somebody else come in who has different materials that you want to use in the battle. So you're not necessarily restricted by not having as many slots, is what I'm trying to say. That would counteract that. Also, what would help is what we talked about, the materia fusion system, so that maybe you can fuse time with something that's similar, and then the spells.
Yeah, you combine the spells. Yeah.
The spells are in the same menu, so you have heal and revival.
For example, healing and revival
together.
Yeah.
So those two are in the same menu. So then you don't need to have heal and revive as two separate materia slots. It's like they're combined.
Yeah, that's also a good idea. I like that. Yeah. It's like crafting your own master materia over time.
Yeah. Exactly. And then that would help with the limitation of the materia slots. Yeah. But then also it would be that plus the counteracting of the extra party members as well.
Yeah. Or also,
which are basically just your materia. What do you call that? Like your
loadout.
You know what I mean? You just load them up with like
load them up
to get it out of your inventory. They're like your inventory. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you also need to level them up. So switching in certain characters, as long as they have been in battle for a few seconds or landed an attack or something, they will get the AP. It's like in Final Fantasy X, you couldn't just switch in, and then all get EXP. You had to at least perform one action, even if it's just defend.
I like that.
Then it counts as having been part of the battle. So you need to at least maybe taking hit or dealing damage or cast the spell, just doing something to get also the AP. Then it can swap in Yuffie, it does something and swap back out, and then
Yeah, it would encourage you to do that
Yeah,
because
exactly.
otherwise those characters are underleveled because you're not using them in battle, maybe.
Characters and the materia as well.
Yeah, that's true. But then also they could have like an EXP instead of EXP plus or EXP up materia, it could be EXP share. So that if you have that
that's a good
equipped, the
one.
other members who you're not using still get a portion of the experience. It's not full experience, but they get a portion of it. But then you're using a materia slot for EXP share. This
Which
is
is
something
fine.
that is in Pokemon actually.
Oh, it is.
That you hold this item EXP share, so then all of your Pokemon, even if you didn't like summon them into battle, use them, still get EXP. But I think it's a certain percentage. I don't think it's 100% of the EXP.
Yeah, but when it's a material, you can level up, so it starts at, let's say, 20% and ends at 50%.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, just like EXP up.
Yeah.
Which was that crazy materia that you got from the Whack-A-Bot, or no, that mini game from Intermission that I hated, that I just want to hurt the person that developed that mini game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the original game already had that intrinsically. Like when, let's say, you had Cloud, Barret, and Tifa, the Dream Team, in your party, and Aerith, Red 13, and Catchy in the reserve, and they will get 50% EXP, even if they're not in battle, because they're all traveling with each other, but they're not active in the party, so they get only half of it. That's already part of the system. But here, maybe they should do this anyway. And maybe if there's a materia, standard is then maybe 60%, and then you can level it up to 100% to share everything. If you have the materia, the others get leveled faster. But if you don't have it, they still get experience points because they're also roaming around.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think those things that we talked about do help with the limitation of having like a lower number of slots available to be unlocked for materia and the gear anyway. So that you're not like crazy overpowered. In part 3, you have like 8 materia slots.
Yeah. Well, I think it could still work if some weapons cannot exceed a certain number and others can.
Yeah.
Like some get 6 and some only 3 or 4, but then they have crazy skills that you can unlock that make them more valuable, but you have to sacrifice material slots for that. But this needs to be very carefully balanced because of hard mode, for example, because then you are in need of materia.
Exactly. But the materia fusion system that we talked about will help with that.
Will help, yeah, if they do that. So Square Enix, please listen to us.
If you're listening, you're probably not. Number 1, forget about what I just said about wanting to kill the person that developed the minigame. I'm so sorry. Number 2, please listen to our ideas.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they would actually work.
Yeah, they will. And yes, we do throw spaghetti at the wall, but some of them are still edible. And the sauce is always good. Please enjoy the sauce. All right.
Oh my god. That was amazing.
Yeah. Okay, we're almost done, but I have one last thought, because there are other games that provide some other possibilities to not quite carry over, but carry over some progress at least. So what if each game has its completely separate balancing system, gameplay system, items, what have you, but if you transfer your save, it detects, oh, you have those materia, you have those accessories, armor and weapons, and you did those side quests, you have done this, that. We give you 1,000 points. Now use those 1,000 points to purchase some bonus items to get you started more easily. Maybe 1 or 2 bonus levels, maybe a special weapon, or I don't know, some stat boosts. So many things, or just a potion pack, or an elixir to start off with, or if you have the materia you got before, or just a set of materia we give you to make it easier in the back. Just something to make the start feel a little bit easier because you did all those things before.
They're not going to do that. They're going to lock it behind a paywall. It's going to be like a pre-order bonus. It's like a pre-order bonus. Like, here is a pack of items that can give you bonuses, but you're going to pay for it.
Pre-order bonus packs. Yeah, but
the Chocobo GP people need to stay far away from this game.
Yeah. Please don't mess with our main game. Please don't.
No, but I agree. That would be nice of them to give us kind of like a bundle.
Exactly. If they don't provide anything to carry over, especially for part 2, which I predict will have no carryover whatsoever. Like give us a little bit of a not a starting help, but just something just a little bit of a bonus to acknowledge that we have been completionists, we have been leveling up, we have been grinding our butts off for all those materials, and the 5,000 AP for receiving or obtaining a rise instead of just rise, and the elemental, which took quite a while to level up, and all those things.
Yep.
We don't need a Götterdämmerung, but at least maybe something would be cool.
I agree. All right, guys. So that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. I had a lot of fun talking to you about the progression transfer between parts of Final Fantasy VII Remake, Vyzz.
Oh, same here. It was so much fun to talk to you about and get everything off my chest for which I've held for like 3 years now.
Yep. Yeah. There was a lot of gibberish, but hopefully something sticks.
I hope so.
We'll see. Hopefully not too long in the future.
Yeah. Hopefully this year, some trailer or some news.
All right, guys. So if you have any ideas for our next episode, you can write us. Our email is thereunionpodcast@gmail.com. Thereunionpodcast@gmail.com. Go ahead and join our Discord server. The link for the Discord server is listed in the description of each episode. So all you need to do is click on it and you'll be automatically added. Our Twitter page is @reunion_podcast. We do have Facebook, it's Reunion Podcast. And our YouTube channel is The Reunion Podcast. All right, Vyzz, did you want to go ahead and drop your socials for Cosmo Canyon Observatory?
Gladly. So main channel is of course YouTube channel, which is called Cosmo Canyon Observatory. We'll find it there. And on Twitter, we're called @cc_observatory. And we also have a Discord server, which is linked on our Twitter page, Twitter profile, and also on the YouTube page, and within each, in the description of each video. So you can't really miss our Discord link. I hope to join you there to talk more about everything we talked about here, all the spaghetti we thrown at the wall, which is it's starting to smell a little bit, but don't ignore the smell. It's good. It's fine. It's good spaghetti. Just ignore it. Yeah. But no, please, let's continue the conversation in our Discord server of the Reunion Podcast or Cosmo Canyon Observatory. Take your pick.
Absolutely. And also you guys can comment on our videos as well on YouTube. So if you have any ideas for how, Square could tackle the progression transfer between parts, or maybe you think there's not going to be any at all, that's totally fine. So tell us your opinion and what you guys think. Maybe, we didn't touch on something that you thought about.
So you dare to say I wasn't exhaustive enough? No, it's fine. I probably missed half of it. Oh boy.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in today. This is Kai. I'm signing off.
Take care, everyone. Vyzz signing off too.
Bye.
Bye.